Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto is forced to return to Konoha by Kushina. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by Blade4228, and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1, Farewell to a Hero. Revised, a cool refreshing breeze blew through the village of Konoha on this starless night. But it was not as dark as one would think, for the night sky was brilliantly light with flashes of light, and the burning multicolored remains of embers that slowly floated to the ground. This spectacle came from the fireworks that were set off to celebrate the demise of the Kyuubi that was defeated by the Yondaime Hokage 5 years ago. The entire village was decorated in streamers, as well as having food and activity stands, which ranged from a simple fish catch game to a more advanced targeting game meant for the shinobi of the village, lined the dusty streets. To the casual observer it seemed like the whole village was into the celebration. But if one would take a closer look at the village, they would see that there was one boy who wasn't in a celebratory mood. In fact, he was downright terrified every time this day rolled around. The poor boy had yellow uncombed hair that sprouted out in all directions and wore an extremely bright orange jumpsuit. This boy's name was Uzumaki Naruto, and he was currently in fear for his life as he fled from a group of angry shinobi. When Naruto landed on a nearby rooftop, he let his fear get the best of him and looked over his shoulder to see how close his pursuers were. Unfortunately for him, this hesitation was all one of them needed. In a swift and fluid motion, this particular shinobi pulled out a kunai and flung it at Naruto just before he shouted, "Die demon!" Naruto managed to duck his head at the last moment and dodged the kunai before he pushed himself harder than any 5-year-old should have been able to and took off at an incredible speed. As the pursuers chased Naruto all over the desert areas of the village, he brought his left hand up to a necklace that he had just gotten as a gift and tightened his grip on it before he thought to himself, if only Anko was here, she would make them all go away. Just as he finished that line of thought, he suddenly felt an intense pain shot through his left leg. Since Naruto didn't want to break his stride, he decided to just ignore the pain and continue on. But when he put his full weight on this leg, the pain became too much, and it gave out. The result of this sent him tumbling into the dark and spooky alleyway below. Naruto hit the ground with such force that you could hear his left leg bone snap. He screamed in pain before he looked down at his leg and saw that not only was his leg twisted in an unnatural position, but that the cause of his tumble was a kunai that was still embedded at least 2 inches into his calf muscle. But before he had the chance to pull it out, his pursuers had caught up with him. Despite the pain shooting through his leg, Naruto managed to turn over on his stomach and tried to crawl away from the group. When the group saw the wounded boy, they quickly descended on him like a pack of vultures and delivered a hailstorm of punches and kicks. Many of these attacks snapped more of Naruto's malnourished bones. As the group continued to beat the poor child, one of them, a shinobi from the looks of his headband and standard Chunin uniform, ripped the necklace off of Naruto's neck. He then haphazardly threw it into the darkness of the alley while he snarled, "A demon doesn't need such things." A few moments later, another shinobi started to do hand seals for a katan jutsu. But before he could finish the last hand seal, the leader of the group put his hand on the man's shoulder, as he said, "Don't if you do a jutsu here, Hokage-sama or one of his ANBU will feel your chakra spike and come to investigate. We don't want to be caught now, do we?" The man silently nodded his head in agreement, before the rest Naruto's attackers pulled out a wide variety of weapons, ranging from kunai to swords, and started to hack and slash at Naruto's flesh. While this gruesome scene was going on, more of his bones were broken in the process, which eliciting a blood-curdling scream before he looked up at his attackers. The only thing he saw, however, was a look of pure and utter hatred reflected in their eyes. When the pain and blood loss started to make Naruto feel disoriented and drowsy, but before all cognitive ability was lost to him, he heard their leader bark out orders. "Now that he's dying, we need to get rid of the body, so it can't be traced back to us." The leader then pointed to 2 of his men and said, "You two, take this creature far from here, so it can't be found." As the 2 men started to head towards Naruto, the damage done to his body finally started to take its toll. With his body starting to shut down, Naruto used every ounce of willpower he had left to focus his eyes and get one last good look at his attackers. That's when he noticed that they all had red eyes with comma-like marks circling around the iris. With this final scene burned into his memory, the world started to fade to nothingness, but before he lost consciousness, he thought to himself, "What did I ever do to deserve this?" On the road to Tanzaku Town, Tsunade felt a shiver run down her spine as the cool night air blew past on the old dusty road surrounded by trees and bushes. Once the breeze had died down, she looked up into the star-filled sky and let out a sigh as she wished that she was already in town. She couldn't wait to relax in the hot springs while she drank some of her favorite sake before she hit the gambling halls and end this losing streak she's been on lately. She turned her gaze from the night sky to the long road ahead while she thought about what awaited her once she got to the casinos. "I'm going to win so big this time. I can feel it. And then I'll use all those winnings to buy even more of my precious sake." Her fantasy was short-lived as her apprentice, Shizen, noticed 2 figures coming out of the bushes off to the side of the road, about 50 yards in front of them. Shizen immediately dropped into a defensive stance as she shouted, "Who are you? And what are you doing over there?" The 2 men froze in place before they turned to look at Tsunade and Shizen. Once they saw the 2, they cursed their bad luck before they disappeared in a puff of smoke. Tsunade's right eyebrow arced ever so slightly, and she got a curious look on her face as she thought to herself, well, that was strange. She soon forgot all about the two men when she heard a very weak moan coming from the bushes that the two men came from a few moments earlier. Letting her curiosity get the best of her, she went over to investigate, but when she pushed the bushes aside she froze on her spot and started to tremble. "What's wrong, Tsunade-sama?" asked Shizen as she was overcome with a deep sense of worry at Tsunade's reaction. But when she looked down to see what her mentor was staring at, a look of horror spread across her face as she saw the battered and bloody body of a 5-year-old boy. Her hands covered her mouth as she thought to herself, oh my god. Her medical training kicked in moments later, and she immediately ran over and began to check his condition. However, when Shizen turned the boy over, Tsunade received another shock to her system, because this small child just happened to resemble someone that she cared deeply about long ago. As she continued to stare at the boy's bloody and dirty face, it caused only one thought to run through her head. He looks just like Nawaki. As she continued to stare, visions of her loved one flashed through her mind. She remembered his laughter, his bright vibrant smile, and the deep love he held for his friends and family. But then her memories turned dark as images of his dead and mutilated body flashed before her eyes. A low groan broke Tsunade out of her thoughts, but when she looked down she didn't see the injured 5-year-old. Instead she saw her brother Nawaki laying there dying at her feet. She shook her head from side to side to clear the vision from her mind, while she thought to herself, no, not again. I won't let it happen again. A new resolve coursed through her veins as she found the courage to push aside her fear of blood, and she quickly knelt down next to Shizen to begin to heal the badly beaten boy. Tsunade-sama, though a shell shocked Shizen, as she never in her wildest dreams thought her sensei would be able to overcome her fear of blood. Pushing those thoughts to the back of her head for now, she turned all her attention towards helping Tsunade as they tried to save this child's life. The two worked feverishly to save the boy, but it was starting to look bleak. That's when Tsunade noticed something odd. A dim red glow enveloped the damaged areas and seemed to help heal the boy at an accelerated rate. Deciding to file this away for a later date, she went back to saving this young boy's life. After several hours, Tsunade let out a sigh of relief as they had finally managed to heal all of his life-threatening injuries. Tsunade gently picked up the unconscious boy and shoved some of his blood-soaked blonde hair out of his face before she turned to Shizen and said, with all the damage his body sustained, it's a miracle that he was able to live long enough for us to treat him. I completely agree, Tsunade-sama. I still can't believe we were able to stabilize him, replied Shizen as she looked at the boy in her master's arms. After a moment of silence between the two women, Tsunade grabbed the edge of her green coat and wiped some of the blood and dirt from the boy's face before she said, let's hurry and find a hotel so he can get some rest. Shizen silently nodded her head in agreement, and both of them took off towards Tanzuka town as fast as they could safely carry the sleeping boy. A short time later they entered the hotel room and noticed the plain white walls with an open kitchen and 2 doors in the back, one leading to the bedroom while the other lead to the bathroom. Tsunade made a beeline for the bedroom and put the boy down on the soft bed. After she quietly shut the bedroom doors, she turned to Shizen and whispered, just who is that boy? There is no way he should have survived all those injuries. I know what you mean, Tsunade-sama. I've never seen someone so severely injured before survive. It has to be a miracle, replied Shizen as she let a small smile spread across her face. This good feeling didn't last long, however, because once she noticed the concerned look on her sensei's face, she got a sinking feeling in the pit of her stomach. What's wrong, Tsunade-sama? We didn't miss anything, did we? No, nothing like that. It's just, didn't you notice that even without our help his wounds were already healing at a faster than normal rate? Asked Tsunade as she brought her right hand up to her chin to ponder this further. It shouldn't have been possible for that boy's wounds to heal so fast unless... As realization dawned on Tsunade, her apprentice Shizen opened the bedroom door a crack and glanced into the room to check on the boy. As she looked at his sleeping form, she muttered, now that you mention it, yes. I did notice that his wounds were healing at an unusually fast rate. But where are you going with this, sensei? It's just a theory, mind you. But I think that he could be a Jinchuriki, commented Tsunade as she got a sad look on her face. That would also explain why he was beaten to within an inch of his life, and then left for dead. But before they could continue their conversation further, they heard a noise coming from the next room, and rushed in to check on the boy. At that very same moment, Naruto slowly opened his eyes and let out a low groan of pain as he started to look around the room. The first thing he noticed was that it was a simple white room, with cheap paint on the walls, and an old cracked mirror hanging over a simple wooded dresser. Then as he laid eyes on the old oak door, it suddenly swung open and 2 ladies rushed into the room. The trauma of Naruto's near-death experience became very apparent when his first reaction was to jump out of the bed, run to the nearest corner of the room, curled up into a ball, and screamed at the top of his lungs, don't hurt me. Tsunade and Shizen both cringed at the sheer terror and panic in the boy's voice. Tsunade decided to implement a different tactic, and cautiously made her way over to him while she tried to calm the poor boy down. Should just calm down. No one here is going to hurt you. We're the medics that made all your injuries go away. My name is Tsunade, and this lady here is my apprentice Shizen. Now that you know our names, could you please tell us yours? Naruto just sat there in shock. He just couldn't believe that this lady didn't know who he was. Everybody knew who he was and they all hated him for it. But out of all the questions swimming around inside his head, there was one that kept coming to the forefront. Why is this lady being so nice to me? After a few moments of silent contemplation he decided to go for broke and answer her question. Naruto lifted his head above his knees and in a soft and quiet voice muttered, "I am Uzumaki Naruto, the QB vessel. Sarutobi-sensei, how could you let this happen to him?" Tsunade thought to herself as an overwhelming sadness crept into her heart, as her mind pictured the kind of life he must have led up until now. When he noticed that the pair looked at him with sadness and sorrow instead of the usual fear and hatred, the question that had been gnawing at his mind earlier became vocalized. "How come you don't know me?" "Everyone knows me." He then lowered his head as a sense of doom and gloom washed over him before he whispered, "And hates me." Tsunade's expression darkened at his words, and she promised herself that one day she'd find the ones responsible for Naruto's current mental state and make them pay. Shoving such dark thoughts to the back of her mind, she got a warm smile and tried to cheer up the poor boy. "Not everyone hates you, Naruto. While I can't speak for that village, I can say that Shizen and myself don't hate you." "Ah, really?" Naruto whispered, hoping against hope that Tsunade was speaking the truth. Her smile took on an even warmer glow than before as she ruffled his hair while she said, "Yup." Naruto just sat there in disbelief, unable to fully comprehend what he had just been told. Aside from Old Man Hokage, Anko, and Tuchi and I am from the Ichiraku ramen stand, everyone else hated him. Man, I wish the old man was here. He'd know if I could trust this lady. Naruto thought to himself as he suddenly realized that aside from the two ladies there wasn't anyone else in the room. That's when he quickly scanned the room but couldn't find any trace of the aged Hokage. He started to get really scared as he frantically searched the room again for any sign of him. When no trace could be found of even a visit, Naruto started to panic as he spouted out question after question. "Where is he? Where's Old Man Hokage? Did something happen to him? Why hasn't he come yet? He always comes to visit me when I get hurt." That last statement hit Tsunade harder than she thought it would, and as dark emotions started to fill her mind, a sour look spread across her face before she thought to herself. "He's been hurt like this before? Damn it, Sarutobi-sensei, when I get my hands on you." Taking a few moments to purge those dark thoughts from her mind, Tsunade took a deep breath and decided to tell Naruto the truth. "Listen, Naruto, there's no easy way to tell you this. So I'll just come out and say it. You're not in Konoha anymore." She paused for a moment to let it sink in, but when she saw the confused look on Naruto's face, she bit her lower lip in worry before she finished what she was going to say. "You're in a town called Tanzaku, Naruto. We found you on the side of the road and brought you here." Naruto's reaction was unexpected to say the least. He just had a blank expression on his face, and with a voice devoid of all emotion he muttered, "So they throw me out, huh? I guess they finally decided to throw out their trash." The torrent of emotions Naruto had bottled up over the years finally reached their limit, and tears started well up in his eyes, threatening to burst forth at any moment. Tsunade's long-dormant maternal instincts started to kick in as she grabbed Naruto and pulled him into a hug. She then rocked him back and forth in an attempt to ease his pain. Not used to such close contact, Naruto's muscles tightened, ready to escape at a moment's notice. But once he realized that there was no malicious intentions, he quickly relaxed into the warm and comforting embrace. The dam finally broke for Naruto, and all of his pent-up emotions came to the surface as he buried his face into Tsunade's shoulder and bawled his eyes out. This outpouring of such raw emotion tugged at the two Kunoichi's heartstrings, and Tsunade found herself pulling him into an even tighter embrace as she did her best to ease the boy's pain. There, it's going to be alright. Don't let their words get to you, Naruto. Because you're not trash, and don't you dare think otherwise, got it? You're far better than that." "How would you know?" sniffled Naruto as he lifted his head and looked at Tsunade with an almost pleading look in his eyes, hoping for a thread of truth in her words. Because Tsunade then got a nice warm smile on her face and put her hand on top of his head before she tousled his hair and said, "I know just how special you really are." Those kind words struck a chord with Naruto. Never before had anyone said he was special, and this brought forth an emotion he had very little experience with: happiness. As a new wave of tears streamed down his face, he tightened his grip on Tsunade's shirt before he buried his face once again into her shoulder and cried tears of joy. Tsunade gently placed her hand on the back of his head as she continued to rock him back and forth until he finally fell asleep. A faint smile spread across her lips as she ran her fingertips through the young boy's hair, and after a few moments of contemplation she came to a decision that would in time rock the very foundation of Konoha. "Shizen." Tsunade stopped for a moment and looked down at the boy, before her eyes reflected a resolve that was thought to have died in her long ago. "I'm taking Naruto with us." "Are you serious, Tsunade-sama?" balked Shizen as she just stared at her mentor, unable to wrap her mind around what she just heard. Soon the turmoil within her mind became vocalized. "In all the years I've known you, you've never done anything like this before. So why start now?" A vein started to throb on Tsunade's forehead as she stopped playing with Naruto's hair, and taking great care not to wake the boy, she said, "Are you saying that we should just throw him back out there? Just leave him so those jackals can do this again?" When Naruto stirred, Tsunade was afraid that she'd woken him. But once he just nuzzled closer to her and started to snore, she let out a sigh, relieved that she hadn't. With that concern out of the way, she turned back towards Shizen and glared at her, expecting an answer. "Oh, of course not. I would ever want him to go through that again, Tsunade-sama." It's just Shizen trailed off, unsure of how to put her feelings into words, but with another harsh glare from her mentor she finally said, I'm surprised that you want to take him with us. After what happened to Uncle Dan and Nawaki, I never thought you'd open your heart up like this again. It's because of Nawaki that I'm doing this. Tsunade mumbled more to herself than Shizen as she once again looked down at the child sleeping in her lap. When Shizen didn't say anything for several seconds, Tsunade looked up at her apprentice only to see her friend's face contorted in confusion. After she let out a deep sigh, she explained further. When he was injured out there, at first I didn't see Naruto lying in that ditch, I saw Nawaki. Shizen brought her hands to her mouth and let out a small gasp, but before she could say anything Tsunade continued. That's what let me get over my fear and help you save him. I'm not sure if it was Nawaki's spirit guiding me or not. But Tsunade paused for a moment to collect her thoughts. I do know I feel a connection to this little guy, and I think Nawaki would want me to look after and protect him. And I think Uncle Dan would want that too. Shizen added more as an afterthought than anything else. She then got a meek smile on her face, and as she gave a quick nod of agreement she thought to herself. Well, I guess it won't be so bad. After all, I've always wanted a little brother. With both ladies in agreement, a warm smile spread across Tsunade's face. Then it's been decided. Naruto-chan is now part of the Senju clan. Naruto-chan? Muttered Shizen with her right eyebrow arched ever so slightly as she gave her mentor a questioning look. A tinge of pink spread across Tsunade's cheeks as an emotion long thought lost flooded her system, but before it could be used against her she decided to quickly change the subject. Anyway, since Naruto-chan is going to come with us, I think it's time he learned how to defend himself, because I don't want anything like this to ever happen to him again. Don't you agree, Shizen? Oh, absolutely, Tsunade-sama, replied Shizen as she let her lips curl into a warm smile, thinking about all the things the two of them couple teach the young shinobi to be. Tsunade ran her fingers through Naruto's hair one more time before she gently laid her hand on his head. Naruto's reaction to this was to snuggle up even closer to her and let out a sigh of contentment. Tsunade's lips curled into a smile as she looked down at the sleeping blonde and thought to herself, well, Naruto-chan, I wonder how you'll react when you find out that you're now part of a family. Hokage Tower. The following day, the early morning rays of sunshine came through the window of the Hokage's office, accentuating the finely crafted oak desk that the Sandaime Hokage was currently working at. Its high finish and ornate design was clearly designed to instill a sense of power and prestige to anyone lucky enough to lay their eyes on it. After he stamped his approval on the document in front of him, he looked over at the huge pile of paperwork that he had yet to complete before he let out an aggravated sign of frustration. He really hated all the backlog of paperwork that was created by his participation in the Kyuubi festival the night before. As it approached midday, Sarutobi had finally started to catch up with all his work, and that's when he noticed that Naruto had yet to come by and pay him a visit like he usually did after the festival. This fact alone caused him to become a little concerned. But as the day wore on and he had yet to even receive any news about the boy's pranks or emergency notices concerning the young blonde, caused him to become really concerned about the child's well-being. So once Sarutobi had finished the last bit of paperwork he was currently on, he let out a sigh and got up to go and look for Naruto. Just then a loud commotion could be heard behind the finely crafted wooden doors that lead to the reception area. Then before he could even get out from behind his desk, the dual doors got knocked off its brass hinges and went crashing to the ground. As the dust settled to the ground, a very pissed-off Mitarashi Anko barged into room. Her long tan trench coat moved as though an invisible wind blew past her as she dragged one of the Chunin guards in with her. Once Anko was in front of Sarutobi's desk, she unceremoniously dropped the guard to the floor, and with a glare that would send a shiver down her old sensei's spine, she made her aggravation known. All right. Where the hell is the Gaki? Sarutobi let a breath he didn't realize he was holding as all his worries about Naruto's safety melted away. After all, if the young woman in front of him is this pissed, Naruto must have played a really nasty prank on her. With a grandfatherly smile on his face, Sarutobi asked, and just what has Naruto done this time? Done. What the hell are you talking about? Screamed Anko, a look of utter disbelief clearly present on her face as she tried to comprehend that he had no clue as to what was going on. Finally, her anger and concern for the person in question got the best of her, and as she clenched her fist to contain her rage, she snapped, I want to know where the Gaki is right now. Taking note of the desperation hidden under all the anger that was just displayed, Sarutobi got a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach. Wanting to get more information before he came to the wrong conclusion, Sarutobi walked out from behind his desk, and he got a serious look on his face to show Anko he wanted answers. Anko-chan, you need to calm down, and tell me what exactly is going on here? The tone in Sarutobi's voice snapped Anko out of her blind rage, and after she took a couple of deep breaths to help collect her thoughts, she told him what she had discovered. Look, all I know is that after I got back from my mission, I went to go check on the Gaki and wish him a belated birthday since I missed it yesterday. She sent a harsh glare at the Hokage to get her point across that she wasn't happy about that at all. When she saw the man flinch under her gaze, she got a small smirk on her face before she continued with her story. But when I got there, the door was unlocked and the place was a mess. Anko-chan, interrupted the Hokage as he grabbed the tip of his hat and pulled it down slightly as he started to wonder if Anko had pushed herself too hard in the last mission to make it back here so fast. You know, Naruto never locks his door, and his place is always a mess. That's not what's got me worried, retorted Anko, As she got right in the Hokage's face to emphasize her next point, there was ramen spewed all across his kitchen table and a shattered bowl on the floor. When Sarutobi heard this, the sinking feeling he had in his stomach earlier dropped into a bottomless pit, as he thought to himself Naruto would never let a bowl of ramen go to waste. This is not good at all. Without a moment's hesitation, Sarutobi went over to his desk and pushed the intercom button just to the right of his big pile of paperwork before he said, I want Kakashi in here. Now. Tell him if not here in the next 10 minutes, then I'm going to make him a Jonin sensei, and have them doing nothing but D-rank missions until I say otherwise. Why yes, Hokage-sama. His secretary quickly stuttered, and the faint noise of a chair being knocked over could be heard from the other side of the intercom before it went silent. With that out of the way, Sarutobi's mind quickly went to what would be needed for when Kakashi arrived, and once he came up with a plan of action, he turned to Anko and relayed his orders. Anko, if Kakashi is going to be able to find Naruto, we'll need something that has Naruto's scent on it. Go to his apartment, and find whatever you can to accomplish this task. I'm on it, Hokage-sama, replied Anko as she quickly bowed her head in respect of the aged leader before she channeled her chakra and vanished in a swirl of leaves. Not even 5 minutes later, Anko puffed back into the room with what was needed to find Naruto, his funny little nightcap with 2 big teeth hanging down in the front, and giant eyes sewn into the material. But as the time passed the 10-minute mark, Anko got more and more agitated until she was no longer able to stand still, and she started to pace around the Hokage's office in order to vent her frustration. Then when the time nearly hit the 20-minute mark, she could no longer contain her rage, and she slammed her fist into the wall as she snarled, Where in the 7 hells is he? As if to answer her question, the oak doors to the Hokage's office opened and in walked Kakashi, with a lazy carefree expression on his face. However, before he could give his customary greeting, Anko grabbed him by his Jonin vest and slammed him into the wall so hard cracks began to form. She then pulled out a kunai and placed it up against his crotch before she growled, What the hell took you so long, Kakashi? And I swear to Kami, if you don't have a good reason, I'll give you a sex change right here. Though Kakashi didn't show any reaction to his current situation on the outside, mentally however he was sweating bullets, especially when he felt the tip of the kunai press up against his precious manhood with enough pressure to cause some discomfort without any serious harm being done. Still, after pondering the situation, he didn't think she would actually go through with it with the Hokage present, so he simply just stared at Anko and in his usual carefree way said, Well, you see, there was this problem with my mask. It seems to have shrunk in the wash, so I had to go buy a new one. Anko's right eyebrow twitched in irritation for several moments before she tightened her grip on his vest and shouted, Okay, that's it. It's time to say goodbye to your little friend Kakashi. But before she could go through with her threat, Sarutobi grabbed her wrist, and after he gave her a harsh glare that sent a clear signal that he wasn't in the mode for these games, he said, Anko, I know you're distressed over Naruto, but I will not tolerate you maiming my shinobi. Now release Kakashi so we can proceed with the task at hand. After a moment's hesitation, Anko pulled the kunai away from Kakashi's nether regions and released her grip on him before she stormed over to the other side of the room, grumbling about lazy perverts and wanting to castrate them all. With Kakashi out of Anko's crosshairs for now, Sarutobi leveled his gaze on the man and said, Kakashi, I don't have time to deal with your tardiness right now, so we'll talk about that later. Once he let that sink into the Jonin's head, he pulled out the nightcap Anko retrieved early and relayed his orders to his tardy Jonin. Now Naruto is missing and it is possible that he's hurt. Use this to track him down immediately. Hi, Hokage-sama, replied Kakashi as he was already going through a series of hand seals and channeling the chakra necessary to perform the jutsu needed. After he formed the last hand seal needed, he slammed his hand onto the ground and called out the name of the jutsu Kuchios no Jutsu. A puff of smoke erupted from his hand and encompassed an area the size of a chair. Then once it cleared, a dog wearing a konoha headband could be seen sitting in the very spot Kakashi's hand was just moments before. Yo! Was the pudgy little dog's greeting as he waved his right front paw. But when he noticed the Hokage and a very irate Kunoichi, he turned towards his summoner and asked, What's up, Kakashi? Pakken, we have a problem. It appears that Naruto is missing and we need you to track him down, stated Kakashi as Sarutobi, not wanting to waste any more time, pulled out the child's nightcap for the dog now known as Pakken to sniff. Pakken took one whiff of the nightcap before his highly sensitive nose picked up the scent of the one thing he detested most in the world. His face turned a dark shade of green, and as he brought his 2 front paws up to his mouth to restrain his gag reflex, he said, Does this kid bath in ramen? I mean, really, who could really enjoy that vile stuff anyway? Anko made it across the room in the blink of an eye and picked up the small dog by the scruff of the neck before she snarled, I don't give a shit what your personal opinion of his eating habits is. Now can you track his scent or not? Geez lady, what's got your panties in a bunch? Questioned Pakken, but when he felt her tighten her grip, he decided to not push her any further and started to rapidly sniff the air in the hopes of placating the pissed off women. Just then a faint breeze blew in from the open window and he stiffened. He picked up the scent of blood mixed in with a heavy dose of ramen. He quickly wiggled out of Anko's iron grip, and as he jumped out the window he said quickly, Follow me. Anko, Kakashi, and Sarutobi wasted no time and followed the little dog out the window and into the streets of Konoha. After several minutes of running along the tiled roof tops of the older wooden buildings of Konoha in the early evening hours, Pakken's sensitive nose finally located the source of the blood mixed with ramen scent and jumped down into the garbage and maggot-infested alleyway below. When the others landed in the alley, they were frozen in place at the scene that lay before them. If a common villager were to look around this particular alleyway, they would have gotten a sick feeling deep in the pit of their stomach. This particulate alleyway was covered in blood, from the walls to the dumpsters. Even the ground had a large pool of blood in one spot close to the back of the alley. As Anko surveyed the scene in hopes of finding any clue to Naruto's well-being, her eyes caught sight of a simple blood-soaked necklace just lying on the ground. Anguish and despair began to overtake her being, and as the tears started to well up within her eyes, Anko focused solely on the necklace that she recognized all too well before she mumbled to herself, "No." Flashback 3 days ago, Naruto's apartment. But Anko Nichin, whined a watery-eyed Naruto, who was barely able to hold back the tears that threatened to run down his face. As he looked up at Anko, he gave her the best puppy dog eyes he could muster in the hopes that he could get her to change her mind. "You promised me that you would be with me on my birthday." The sheer outpouring of emotion caused a sad smile to spread across Anko's face, and in an attempt to lighten his mood a little, she placed her hand on his head and started to ruffle his hair before she tried to explain the situation. "Look, Brad, I'm sorry, I really am, but orders are orders. The mission is real important for our village, and is expected to last at least 3 days. This means that I won't be able to get back to the village until the day after your birthday. Now suck it up, you are a big boy, right? And big boys don't get upset about things like this." "Okay," sniffled Naruto as he tried his best to be the big boy he wanted to be and make his sister figure proud of him. When Anko saw how hard Naruto was trying to put up a brave face, she got down on one knee so that they were face to face, and she lightly ruffled his hair again before she said, "Well, brat, since I won't be here for your birthday, I think I'm just going to have to give you your present a little early." Naruto's mood instantly brightened at the prospect of actually receiving something from someone other than the Hokage. His bright and vibrant eyes watched intently as Anko put her hands behind her neck and removed the necklace she was wearing. She then carefully put the necklace around Naruto's neck before she clasped the two ends together. She then gave it a gentle tug to make sure it was secure. Once she got back to her feet, she let a smile cross her face as she watched Naruto examine his new possession with the awe and reverence only a child could have. "Now I expect you to take good care of that, all right?" said Anko as she put her hand on his head and ruffled his hair one more time. After Naruto got away from Anko's antics, he gave her the best foxy smile he had and cheerfully replied, "You bet, Anko Nichin. I'll never take it off. That's a promise." End flashback. Otuto, Anko thought to herself as the emotional turmoil became too much, and she collapsed to her knees. With a shaky hand she picked up the necklace, and once it was in her hand she could no longer hold back the current of emotions she'd had bottled up since she first found that destroyed bowl of ramen. As the tears slowly rolled down her face, she made a silent prayer. "Please be alright. I don't know what I'd do if I lost you too." Meanwhile, Sarutobi had just finished surveying his surroundings with a heavy heart, and as he rubbed some of the blood he had wiped off the walls between his fingers, he thought to himself, with this much blood all over the place, it's unlikely that anyone could have survived. "Naruto, were you really the one hurt in this alleyway?" When he was brought out of his thoughts by the sounds of sobbing, he quickly shifted his gaze over to the source, only to find Anko on her knees clutching what appeared to be a simple necklace with tears streaming down her face. "Anko's crying? I've never seen her cry so openly before. What did she find that put her in such a state?" The bewildered Hokage thought to himself as he made his way over to the poor girl. By the time he made it over to her, he finally got a good look at the necklace that she had in her hands. It was a simple amulet with what appeared to be a rope tied around it, and that's when his eyes widened in horror as he finally placed where he had seen it before. "Oh my god! That's the necklace that Anko gave Naruto for his birthday." Sarutobi's desire to find Naruto doubled, and he quickly used his advanced shinobi skills to scan the alley yet again in the hopes of finding any sign of Naruto, but with this attempt came to no avail. He turned his attention to Kakashi and relayed his new orders. "Kakashi, gather your most trusted A and BU, and start searching the village and the outlying areas for any sign of Naruto. We need to find him now." Obeying his orders without question, Kakashi merely nodded his head in acknowledgement before he disappeared in a puff of smoke. Once they were alone in the alleyway, Sarutobi placed his hand on Anko's shoulder and put on his best grandfather face in an attempt to reassure the distraught woman. "Don't worry, Anko-chan, I'm sure that Naruto is just fine." But when Anko didn't respond to him and just continued to stare at the necklace she was holding with a far-off look on her face, he sighed in frustration and finally let his emotions to the surface by allowing a single tear to run down the side of his cheek. After his little outburst of emotion, he turned his gaze towards the Hokage monument, and more specifically the Yondaime Hokage's sculpted face, and thought to himself, "I'm so sorry, Minato-san, but it looks like I've failed you." Tanzaka Town. The early morning rays of sunshine came through the window and started to bath the hotel room in its warm light, and when those rays fell upon a young blonde boy, who was still resting his head in Tsunade's lap, began to stir. Naruto slowly opened his eyes, and as he rubbed the sand from them he noticed that his pillow was unusually warm and comforting, as if it was filled with the love and compassion that was sorely missing in his life. But when he looked up and saw that his head was in the lap of a blonde-haired lady, the memories of what happened the night before flashed before his eyes. Once his recollection was complete, he instinctively reached for the necklace his Nachan gave him, only to discover that it was no longer in his possession. After a frantic check on his person with still no sign of the necklace, the realization that he broke his promise to Anko sunk in, and he did the only thing he could do. He curled himself into a ball and let the tears freely flow down his cheeks. As the sounds of Naruto's crying became louder and louder, the noise started to rouse a still groggy Tsunade. She slowly opened her eyes and stared at the ceiling above her for several moments before she glanced over at the far wall and saw the time on the clock. Man, I really hate mornings, she thought to herself just as the sounds of Naruto's crying reached her ears. When she turned to look at the blonde-haired boy, she got a pain in her heart at seeing him in such an emotional state. With the gentlest of gestures, she tapped him on the shoulder and asked, "What's wrong, Naruto-chan? I didn't squash any part of you while I slept, did I?" The moment Tsunade heard what she had said, she flinched and let out an aggravated sigh as she thought to herself, that sounded really lame. "Arg, I'm no good at this sort of thing." "No, nothing like that," sniffled Naruto as he wiped the underside of his nose before he lowered his head so that his chin rested on his knees and mumbled, "I broke my promise to Anko-nichan." "You have a sister?" Tsunade practically shouted as she racked her brain but couldn't recall Naruto having any surviving relatives. In fact, the only person she could think of that would qualify as family was his rumored godfather Jiraiya, but since he never took any responsibility in raising the boy, she quickly dismissed that as a possibility. "She's not my real sister," muttered Naruto as he rubbed his puffy red eyes to clear his watery vision. He then looked up at Tsunade, and when he saw her questioning look, he elaborated, "But after she saved me last year, she started to look after me. Check to make sure I was alright and stuff like that when she wasn't on a mission, of course. She even trained me on how to avoid the villagers. That way they wouldn't be able to hurt me. Sounds like she cares about you very much." Tsunade whispered into Naruto's ear as she allowed a faint smile to cross her lips at the news that not everyone in that horrible village hated him before she decided to discreetly get a hold of this person and inform them of Naruto's survival. And who knows, she may even agree to be their eyes and ears within the village, an advantage that would be invaluable in the future should they ever come to suspect that Naruto survived. "Yeah, I guess she does," chirped Naruto as a warm fuzzy feeling filled his being at the thought of all that Anko had done for him. Then his mind drifted to their last meeting. "She even gave me my first birthday present early, because she would be on a mission and would miss it. It was this necklace that she always wore," added Naruto as tears started to well up and threat to overflow as he reached up to where the necklace hung from his neck just the day before he sniffled "an. And then it was taken from me when those shinobi with weird eyes attacked me." Without a second thought, Tsunade pulled Naruto into a hug and gently rubbed the back of his head, while she whispered reassuring words in his ear. "Sure, it's alright. You didn't break your promise to your sister. Always remember that it wasn't you that lose the necklace. It was taken from you, and I'm sure she won't hold that against you. She cares too much for you to do that." Once Naruto started to calm down, Tsunade looked down at the boy and asked the question that had been bugging her since he made that comment about the eyes. "Naruto-chan, you said they had weird eyes. Could you tell me a little more about that?" "I'll never forget those eyes as long as I live," Naruto mumbled to himself, as his eyes glazed over slightly when he pulled that terrible memory to the surface. They were red with these weird marks that went around in a circle. They were filled with so much hate that Naruto never got to finish his thoughts as Tsunade pulled Naruto into an even tighter hug, and without even a word spoken between the two, Naruto buried his head into her chest and began to cry anew. Tsunade let out a sigh of despair at the emotional outpouring of the poor neglected child before she looked out the nearest window and hardened her gaze, as she thought to herself, "So it was the Uchiha clan that did this to him. I swear one day I'll make them pay for this." After her little moment with Naruto, Tsunade realized that she had yet to hear a peep out of Shizen. But when she looked over where she last remembered seeing her apprentice, she couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. The reason for this was simple. She saw Shizen with her head on the tabletop with a little bit of drool dripped out of the bottom of her mouth that formed a small puddle on the tabletop, and her arms just dangling at her side. "I swear, Shizen, you can sleep anywhere," Tsunade thought to herself as she shook her head at her apprentice's sleeping habits. While all this was going on, Naruto had managed to calm himself from his earlier crying fit and asked the one question that had been swirling around in his head since Tsunade told him where she found his broken body. "Tsunade-san, what will happen to me now?" Tsunade couldn't help herself. She chuckled at his comment, and figuring she'd kill two birds with one stone, said, "Naruto, please don't call me Tsunade-san. After all, is that anyway to address your new Ka-san?" Unable to believe what he just heard, he just sat there frozen in place, and after he got over the shock, his eyes got as big as dinner plates. But with a nagging voice in the back of his head telling him he heard her wrong, Naruto pulled away from Swanda and in a quivering voice mumbled, "WW, what did you just say?" "I said." Tsunade paused only for a moment so that she could put her left hand under his chin, and she raised his head so he could get a clear look at her face. She then let her smile get even bigger before she continued, "Is that any way to address your new Ka-san? After all, I've decided to take you with us and raise you as my own. That is if you'll have me." Naruto got really quiet and he lowered his head so that his hair covered his eyes, but just as Swanda started to worry that he was going to take this the wrong way, he said, "Can you promise me just one thing?" But before Swanda had a chance to form any kind of reply, he lifted his head up so that they made direct eye contact, and as a few tears rolled down his cheeks, he finished his line of thought. Promise me that you won't abandon me? I don't want to be alone anymore. Tsunade's smile softened as she quickly enveloped him in a hug, and in a tone that one would expect a mother would use to comfort her child she said, "Don't worry, my little Naruto-chan. I promise that neither Shizen nor I will ever leave you. You won't ever be alone again." When Naruto heard this, he returned her hug this time, and with a genuine smile on his face he kept repeating over and over, "I have a family. I have a family." Now Naruto-chan, Tsunade started to say but stopped, and decided to wait until he had calmed down from his excitement at finally having a family. When she saw that she had gained his full attention, she continued, "What do you say we go wake up Shizen? That way we can properly celebrate you joining your new family." Naruto jumped out of Tsunade's embrace and pumped his fist into the air as he shouted, "Yeah! I've never been able to celebrate anything before, so this is going to be so awesome." Without any form of prompting from Tsunade, Naruto ran over to the where Shizen still slept and jumped onto Shizen's back while he said, "Wake up, Ne-chan. I want to go celebrate with my new family." The poor victim of the boy's attack shot up from her chair, and much to the surprise of Tsunade, Naruto managed to stay on Shizen's back by wrapping his arms around her neck. As Shizen looked over her shoulder at the blonde-haired boy, shock was clearly evident on her face as she shrieked, "What's going on?" Ignoring her apprentice's question, Tsunade walked up to the pair with a smile on her face as she said, "Now since we are celebrating Naruto-chan's introduction into my clan, I'll let him decide where we should go." Tsunade's smile got even bigger when she saw the look of shock and awe on Naruto's face at being able to choose whatever he wanted. When she saw that he wasn't going to respond right away, she asked, "Well, Naruto-chan? What would you like to have to commemorate the day you gained a family?" The shock and awe was quickly replaced by an overwhelming sense of happiness, a deep happiness that he has never experienced before, and as his fox-like smile got plastered all over his face, he shouted, "Ramen." Chapter 2, Anko's Grief. Somewhere in Konoha, we find Anko walking down the street with a sneer on her face as she passes by some villagers, who quickly get out of her way. In the past 2 weeks, Anko has started to get a reputation for being even more of a sadist, or as some have come to call her, the psychotic snake witch, for stopping any and all parties that celebrated Naruto's death. Any villager that got on her bad side on this issue wound up in the hospital with many lacerations and a couple broken bones. One person even wanted to find Naruto's body just so they could burn it, to give him a proper send-off back to hell. This comment got he strung up in front of the Hokage Tower, upside down in nothing but his underwear, with a kunai with a note that said, "Say that again and I won't miss next time," just inches for his family jewels. After passing by the villagers, Anko's face softened when she thought about Naruto's death. She still couldn't believe that he was really gone, and she didn't fail to see the irony of losing him to an attacking mob. After all, that's how they first met. Flashback 1 year ago. A 16-year-old Anko was walking down the street mentally congratulating herself for passing her exam and making Tokubetsu Jounin, when she heard the muffled cries of a group of people coming from the other side of the street. As Anko makes her way to the front of the crowd, she couldn't help but think, what's got all these people so worked up? When she finally got to the front of the crowd, she stopped dead in her tracks, for right in front of her was a small boy, no older than 3 or 4 years of age, lying down in the mud, his blonde hair matted with mud and dried blood, his left arm bent in an unnatural position, clearly broken, and several minor cuts and bruises all over his body. After hearing comments like "demon brat," "kill the demon," and "why don't you go back to hell, that's where you belong after all," Anko couldn't help feel sympathy for the boy, as she too was treated badly because of her sensei gone missing Nin. But her thoughts went in a different direction. So that's the QB vessel. Can't these people tell the difference between the demon and its jailer? I mean, my father taught me a little about seals, and even I can tell the difference. Thinking of her father put a frown on her face, thinking back to what the council forced her to do. Damn council won't even let me take my father's clan name even though I'm a Tokubetsu Jounin now. Those old bastards will only let me take my mother's maiden name of Midarashi. Being brought out of her thoughts as she a knife being thrown at the boy, she reacts without a second thought. Anko jumped in front of the boy and deflected the knife. Anko gets into a defensive position, and yells, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" while she scans the crowd for any more attacks. "We're getting rid of the demon." "What does it look like, you snake whore?" shouted someone in the crowd. Anko's right eyebrow started to twitch as she looked at the crowd. Snake whore, snake whore. First you tried to kill a small child, then you just have to insult me. That's it, you're all going to pay now, Kuchios and no jutsu. As she slammed her hand into the ground and several dog-sized snakes appear. "Alright boys, go and have your fun, just don't make their pain end too quickly," said Anko with a sadistic look on her face. Upon hearing the jutsu that this defender of the demon used, many in the crowd started to panic and flee the scene. Just as the snakes were about to attack, kunai came raining down, dispersing all of the snakes in a cloud of smoke. When the cloud of smoke cleared, Anko found out that Naruto and herself were surrounded by Umbu. Glaring at the dog-faced Umbu, Anko couldn't help but yell, "Why did you stop me? These little maggots need to be taught a lesson." "It's because you went too far, Anko," came the reply of an elderly man in white robes and a hat with the kanji of fire on it. Anko's eyes widened in surprise at the comment, as she said, "Hokage-sama, you can't mean that, you're just going to let them get away with this." Sarutobi brought a hand to the brim of his hat and pulled it down, closed his eyes and took a deep sigh. He then opened his eyes to meet Anko's eyes. Seeing the hurt and confused look in them, he told her, "Anko, I'm happy to see that you've protected Naruto, and I have no intention of letting them go unpunished. but I can't just let you go and do whatever you want them either. Think about it, Anko, then you would be no better than them. And besides, what do you think your father would have done if he was still with us? At the comment about her father, her put her head down with her hair covering her eyes, thinking the old man's right. Father would have handled that a little differently. But I'm not my father. Anko comes out of her thoughts as she feels a tug on the sleeve. She looks down only to find little Naruto holding onto her sleeve while in the Hokage's arms. Are you telling me the squirt was still conscious after all that? What a minute, when did the old man pick him up? Filing those questions away for later, Anko heard Naruto mumble something to her. Leaning in closer to him, she smiles down at him saying, what was that, squirt? Naruto looks up with a weak smile on his face, and with a soft voice says, thanks for saving me from the mean people. I am a little, sleepy. I think I'll take a nap now, as he closes his eyes and goes to sleep. After Naruto fell asleep, Sarutobi looked at Anko with a smile on his face. Don't worry, Anko, he's just fallen asleep. He's safe now, so you can just go on home and get some rest. We'll take him to the hospital. But escapes her lips as she glances down at Naruto. Sarutobi let out a sigh. I can assure you, he is quite alright. But you need to go home and get some rest. After all, you had a busy day. What with the exams and now this incident. Now don't make me have to turn this into an order. Lowering her head in defeat, she replies, yes, Hokage-sama. As Sarutobi and the Umbu squad took off for the hospital. As she started off toward her apartment, she glances back in the direction of the hospital. Her only thoughts were, at least he's safe now. And flashback. Coming out of her thoughts, Anko realizes that she's stopped right in front of Ichiraku's ramen stand. Looking over at the two empty seats that she and Naruto would always sit at, she couldn't help but see two ghostly figures sitting there. One was of herself sitting there listening to the other ghostly figure of Naruto, as he was smiling and laughing about something that happened that day. Shaking her head to clear the image from her mind, she continues on to her apartment. As she starts to open the front door to her place, she can't help but wonder about something. Why did they take the body? And not even bother to clean up the alleyway? They must have known that the council would not pursue the matter without hard evidence of an actual murder. Then that means the ones who killed my Otoro had to be shinobi. Besides, I trained him too well for him to be caught by those damn villagers. After locking her door, Anko starts to turn around to head into her living room when a big puff of smoke appears right in front of her. Anko jumps back, almost slamming into her front door, as she makes a quick jerking motion with her right hand to make a kunai appear. When the smoke clears, Anko just gets a purely dumbfounded look on her face as she sees a slug that is as big as an Inuzuka clan dog with what looked like two scrolls wrapped in its antenna. Before Anko can even do anything, the slug looks straight at her and says, excuse me, young lady, but would you happen to be Anko Nichin by any change? Out of all the possible things Anko was expecting to happen, being asked that one question was not one of them. Her eyes grew wide and her left hand went up to the necklace around her neck and put it into a vice-like grip. Only one person ever called me that, but he's dead. So how does this slug know that name? Recovering from her shock a moment later, Anko narrowed her eyes at the slug. A frown appeared on her lips as she gets a tighter grip on the kunai in her right hand. Who wants to know? Without even missing a beat, the slug responds, my mistress, Tsunade-sama, asked me to deliver these 2 letters to a person, according to Tsunade-sama's new charge anyway, named Anko Nichin at this location. You match the description given to me by my mistress's young charge, so I figured that you must be this Anko Nichin he told me about. Tsunade-sama, as in the legendary slug Sannin? Her new charge? What the hell is going on here? Taking a deep sigh, Anko replies, yeah, that's me. Might as well find out what's going on. The slug extended its right antenna to show Anko the first scroll labeled Anko Nichin. I'm to wait to see if you want to give a response to those letters. Whatever. As Anko's trembling hands opened the first scroll. Dear Anko Nichin, I'm writing this to let you know that I'm alright. Sorry for taking so long to get in touch, but cousin wanted to make sure that you were the only one to get this letter. Oh yeah, I've got a cousin and another Neichan now, can you believe it? They really want to take care of me the orphan that nobody wanted. Okay, almost nobody, sorry Neichan. Anyway, my cousin's name is Tsunade. She's some hotshot medic Nin or something, and my other Nichin's name is Shizun. She's cousin's apprentice. Hey, guess what cousin says she is? Going to take me on as an apprentice and train me to be stronger. Neichan, there's something I need to tell you. When I got attacked, they took the necklace you gave me for my birthday. Please forgive me for breaking my promise to never take it off. I would really like to tell where I am, but all I know is that it's a town a long way away from you. Cousin told me she's writing a letter to you as well and give you this place's name. Anyway, I hope you come visit us really soon. By Anko Nichin, hope to talk to you later. Naruto. Anko's eyes, tears of happiness came down her face and her lips curled into a smile as she read the letter again and then looked at the little scribble of a Naruto head with a foxy grin and one hand in a victory sign. He's alive! He's really alive! I can't believe he's still alive! With a smile still on her face, Anko put the letter from Naruto down on the table, and picked up the second scroll labeled Anko-san. As she opened it, she couldn't help but wonder what Tsunade-san would want to write about. To Anko-san. Hello Anko-san, if Naruto hasn't already told you, my name is Tsunade. I'm writing this letter to inform you of some matters that have come to my attention. The first is to let you know that I am indeed making Naruto my son and apprentice. I won't go into details as to why I decided this, but I will say this: I plan on making Konoha regret their decision in trying to get rid of him. I'm going to train him to be the best medical ninja this world has ever seen. The second matter is one of the most important we need to discuss. Under no circumstances are you to let anybody know that Naruto is alive. You can't even tell Sarutobi-sensei. If you tell him, he will have to inform the council, and as you know, there are probably many people on the council that would use this chance to make Naruto was never heard from again. I will not let that happen, even if it means that I have to become a missing nin. The final matter I need to inform you on concerns the attack on Naruto. When Shizen and I found he was barely clinging to life. In fact, if it wasn't for the Kyuubi, Naruto wouldn't be alive right now. He had cut and deep gashed all over his body. His left leg was fractured, the right arm was completely snapped in half, he had several cracked ribs, and was suffering from some internal bleeding. At the point Anko gritted her teeth and was using every ounce of willpower to not crumple Tsunade's letter. After we were able to heal his injuries, I had a talk with him about the attack. Luckily he can't remember most of what happened to him. I just hope that this means the trauma of the attack is kept to a minimum. Anyway, Naruto does remember one thing about his attackers, and that is their eyes. He said they have red eyes with black commas in them. Ring any bells? Anko's eyes narrowed and some wrinkles appeared on the paper. She only had one thought: Uchihas. They're going to pay for hurting my Ototo. If you guess the Uchiha clan, then you're corrected. But before you do anything stupid, a little piece of advice. Don't do anything to the Uchiha clan until you have some evidence of them being involved in the assault. Now if you want to see Naruto again, we will be in Tenzoku town for at least 2 to 3 more weeks before moving on. So I recommend that you get some time off and permission to leave the village for that period of time. I really don't care how you do it, but I know for a fact that Naruto would really like to see you again. Tsunade. After she finished reading Tsunade's letter, Anko turned to the slug. Alright, could you tell Tsunade-sama that I will be there as soon as I can? I want to talk to her about the brat's training, and about this clan problem. Very well, Anko-san, I shall relay the message for you. Goodbye. The slug then disappeared in a puff of smoke. After the slug left, Anko went about gathering all the stuff she would need for her trip to Tenzoku town. When she had all her things packed, she locked her apartment and headed for the Hokage Tower. Hokage Tower? Sarutobi was sitting at his desk working on the latest batch of paperwork when he heard a knock on the door. Thankful for the little distraction, he looked up at the door and said, "Enter." When Anko enters the Hokage office, she sees the Hokage looking at her with a smile on his face. Deciding to get straight to the point of her visit, she blurts out, "Hokage-sama, I request to have 2 to 3 weeks off so I can get my head together." Seeing no reaction from the Hokage, Anko decided to continue. "I would also like to have your permission to go and leave the village to visit some of the other villages in Fire Country. I just need to get away from here for a little while." Upon hearing this, Sarutobi was deep in thought. He knew that Naruto's death had hit her hard and that she needed time to grieve, so being the kind-hearted person he was, released a deep sigh and said, "This very well, Anko, I'll give you your 3 weeks, and I'll even let you visit the other towns in Fire Country. But I want to be notified of what town you are in and where you will be staying, so that I can contact you in case something comes up." Alright. Getting a big smile on her face, Anko bows to the Hokage and says, "Thank you, Hokage-sama, and I think I will go to Tenzoku town first so I can see the sights and try to clear my head." Smiling at Anko, Sarutobi dismisses her so she can start her vacation. "I just hope this helps you come to terms with Naruto's death." When Anko steps outside of the Hokage office, she grabs her pack, she heads out of the tower and toward Tenzoku town. "I'll be there soon, Ototo, and when I get there I'm going to help you become even stronger, so that this place realizes what a mistake they've made." Next chapter, Let the Torturer Training Begin. Chapter 3, Let the Torturer Training Begin. Naruto still couldn't believe this was happening to him. First he is nearly killed by a mob of shinobi, then to be found by Tsunade and Shizen, who just happened to be walking by, and then they decide to take him under their wing. In fact, Tsunade has spent most of the last 2 weeks getting to know Naruto. She has even started to call him Naruchan. Naruto is now in the forest just outside of Tanazuka town with Tsunade and Shizen, in just a blue t-shirt, a tan pair of pants and a pair of sneakers, waiting for his training to begin. "Alright, Naruchan, before we begin your training I need to know if you know what chakra is and how to channel it," Tsunade asked. "Of course, cousin, we covered what chakra is and how to channel it at the academy about a month ago." "Good, that will make things easier. Now I have just one more question. What do you plan to do with the training that I'm going to give you?" "Well, if we were still in the village, I would want to use the training to fulfill my dream of becoming Hokage, so everyone would stop disrespecting me and acknowledge my existence, but after everything that has happened lately I don't know if I want that anymore." Tsunade's eyes glazed over at this comment, thinking of her brother Nawaki and her loved one Dan. She is brought out of these thoughts when Naruto continued, "I may not be sure of my dreams anymore, but there is one thing that I know I will do from now on. I must get stronger so I can protect the ones I care about. I will not let anyone take them away from me," Naruto said with a fierce determination in his eyes. Tsunade couldn't help but smile. At least the villagers haven't completely destroyed his kindness or his determination. "Alright, Naruchan, since you know how to mold chakra, why don't you do so now so I can see what we have to work with?" As Naruto put his hands into a ram's seal and started to gather his chakra, Tsunade and Shizen were floored by how much chakra he was producing. Both of them were thinking the exact same thing. What the hell? He's got more chakra than most genin have a year after they graduate, and he's only 5 years old for crying out loud. How can he have so much chakra? Asked the startled Shizen. The smile on Tsunade's face got even bigger at this revelation. That's enough, Naruto-chan, you did a great job. Konoha has no idea that they let such a promising shinobi slip through their fingers, but I plan on making them see how foolish they were. Naruto got a foxy grin on his face as he rubbed the back of his head. Thanks, cousin, but I've never been complimented before. Is there anything I'm supposed to do? Tsunade's smile turned into a frown at that comment. No, Naruto-chan, just saying thank you really all there is. Before Tsunade could continue, a slug appeared next to her and delivered Anko's message, causing the smile to return to her face. Naruto-chan, come over here for a second, okay? What is it, cousin? I've got some good news for you. It looks like Anko-san is coming to visit you after all. Naruto's smile returned to his face as he hugged Tsunade. I get to see Anko-nichan. Patting his head, she couldn't help but return the hug, while saying, come on Naruto-chan, it's time to start your training. Releasing the hug and getting a serious look on her face, Tsunade starts to explain the exercise. Okay, the first thing we're going to work on is your chakra control. Since you have such a large chakra reserve, it will be a little harder for you to control it, but with some time and hard work you will be able to get as good as me, if not better. Nodding his head, Naruto couldn't wait to start learning so he could make them proud of him. So what kind of control technique are you going to teach me? Tree climbing, but you can only use your feet when climbing the tree. What? How can you climb a tree without using your hands? Tsunade couldn't help but smile at his reaction. By focusing your chakra on the bottom of your feet and regulating it just right so you stick to the surface of the tree. Here, I'll show you. As she focused her chakra and started to climb up the side of the tree. Now you might want to get a running start at the beginning to get some momentum. She then threw a kunai at Naruto's feet. Use this to mark your progress. Picking the kunai up, Naruto started to run at a tree and started to run up the side. He was able to get 4 steps up the tree before he fell down to the ground. Looking back at the tree with an intense glare, Naruto focused his chakra again and ran up the tree. This time he got a little bit further before he fell back to the ground. Remember, Naruto-chan, you need to regulate your chakra flow in order to stick to the tree. Shizen encouraged. Taking a few seconds to think about this, he tried it one more time, and managed to make it halfway up the tree before he lost his grip. Tsunade couldn't help but be amazed at how quickly Naruto was able to grasp the concept of the technique. Unbelievable, Naruto-chan has already been able to progress this far, with this genin level technique. If he's able to put this much focus into all of his training, there's no telling how powerful he may become. For the next couple of days, Tsunade had Naruto focus on tree climbing. She wanted to improve his control before she started his medical jutsu and taijutsu training. Naruto would continue to climb up and down the tree until it became second nature to him. This is the scene that one Anko Mitarashi came upon when she arrived. She was completely surprised by what her Ototo was doing. Hey Gaki, when did you learn to control your chakra so well? She asked as she walked up to the group. Naruto instantly recognized that voice and quickly turned and ran toward the person and enveloped them in a hug, while yelling Anko-nichan. After that tender moment was over, Anko reached behind her neck and took off the necklace and handed it to Naruto. I think you lost this, Gaki. I promise, Anko-nichan, I won't lost it again, said Naruto as the attack flashed through his mind while he put the necklace on. Gripping the necklace in his hand, he lowered his head so that his hair covered his eyes, as a question that has been bothering him for a while now came to the surface. And he whispered, why? What was that, Naruto-chan? Tsunade said in a concerned voice. Lifting his head up to show a look of sorrow on his face, Naruto says, why? Why do they hate me so much? What did I ever do to deserve this? Why must I suffer like this? Why? He then fell to his knees, slammed his fists into the ground. Tsunade knelt down in front of Naruto and enveloped him in a hug while saying in a soothing voice, you haven't done anything wrong, Naruto-chan. I didn't want to tell you this right now, but you have a right to know the truth. Both Anko and Shizen get worried looks on their faces. They both fear that Naruto will start to hate them when he learns that he is the Kyuubi vessel. Naruto-chan, do you remember the story of how the Yondaime defeated the Kyuubi? Of course, cousin, he was able to kill the demon at the cost of his life. Everybody knows that story. Tsunade let out a sigh. That not what really happened back then. That was what the younger generation was told so they wouldn't know the truth. Naruto looked at her with confusion all over his face. So we wouldn't learn the truth? What are you talking about? What I'm talking about is the fact that the Yondaime couldn't kill the Kyuubi, so he did the next best thing. He sealed it inside of me, didn't he? Came Naruto's eerily calm voice. This one comment shocked all three of them. Tsunade got a sickening feeling in the bottom of her stomach at how calm his voice was when making that statement. I've never heard him talk like that before. How did you? I overheard some people talking once about seals a while back. They said that if they could seal me in a box and leave it somewhere, that it would be just as good as killing me. Naruto said in a detached voice. This caused Tsunade to tighten the hug. My god, what have those people done to you? So if Kyuubi is sealed into me, then does that mean I'm a demon or what? Tsunade put her hand to his chin and lifted his head so that their eyes made contact. You're not the demon. You're just my little Naruto-chan, who just happens to have the Kyuubi sealed into him. If you don't believe me, Then just think about this. If those people had sealed you into that box, then would that mean the box somehow becomes you just because you were sealed into it? When Naruto heard it explained like that, he started to realize the truth in those words. A smile started to form as he said, "You're right. If I was sealed into a box, then I would be trapped in the box and couldn't get out. But the box would still be a box. So that means that I am still me and the fox is still the fox." Just as Naruto finished his statement, he felt a hand on his shoulder, turning his head to see who did it, only to look into the smiling face of Anko. "That's right, Gaki, you are not the fox. You're just my annoying Otuto who seems to believe the words of the villagers over his Nechan." "Did you just call me your Otuto? Shit, did I say that out loud?" Anko grossed her arms and turned her ear away from him. "I don't know what you're talking about." Tsunade and Shizen couldn't help but laugh at the antics between Anko and Naruto. Shizen just had to tease the two by saying, "Yes you do, Anko-san. It looks like our little Naruto-chan has himself a Nechan house in denial." Tsunade decided to end this now before it escalated further. "Stop it, you two. We have more important thing to do right now. Shizen, I need you to go and get all the supplies you will need to start Naruto-chan's basic schooling." "Yes, Tsunade-sama," said Shizen as she heads off to go get the supplies. Before Tsunade could give out any more orders, Anko decided to ask a favor. "Tsunade-sama, do you think I can take over the Gaki training for a while? I want to see how good he's gotten." "I guess that's okay. I'll just stand over here in case you want my help," came Tsunade's reply as she headed over to the edge of their training field. No, that's alright, why don't you go into town and relax, play some of the games at the casinos," pleaded Anko. "If she sees my training methods, she probably got to overreact or something." At the mention of casinos, started to think that wasn't such a bad idea, besides it's not like she'll hurt Naruto-chan or anything. "Fine, but if anything happens to him, it'll be fine, besides it's not like my training is going to kill him or anything," Anko said while waving her hand in a casual manner. After Tsunade left, Anko turned to Naruto and got a sinister-looking smile on her face, one that caused a shiver to run down his spine. "Oh shit, last time she got a look like that I underwent her training from hell." "Alright Gaki, I see you can do the tree climbing exercise pretty well. I think it's time to take it up a notch." As she pulled out several kunai, Anko continued, "You are going to dodge any projectile that I throw at you, but you can only stick to the trees, you can't tough the ground, got it?" "Okay Gaki, ready set." Anko throws a kunai, go. Naruto was able to dodge the first kunai that was thrown at him by ducking, but as soon as he go back to a standing position, Anko was already behind him and grabbed both of his arms before saying, "Didn't I tell you Gaki that you can only use the tree when dodging my attacks?" Then she proceeded to throw him up into the trees. As the training went on, Naruto was able to dodge more kunai while sticking to the trees. After a few hours of this, Anko was getting hungry, so she decided that it was time to call it a day. "Come on Gaki, that enough fun for one day, let's head back to get some dango." "Fun? Fun? You call casing me around and giving me all these cuts and bruises fun?" Anko narrowed her eyes and said, "Yeah, how else will you learn anything?" Seeing the look she gave him, he knew to not push it any further. Letting out a sigh, he said, "Let's just head back, okay?" Once they rejoined the others, it took both Shizen and Naruto to keep Tsunade from severely hurting Anko, after she found out about Anko's little training session. Needless to say that from then on Anko agreed to use blunt kunai in future sessions. I mean, would you want to face the wrath of the slug Sannin? Time skip. It's been 2 weeks since Anko started to help train Naruto, and we find both her and Tsunade sitting at a bar while Shizen handles Naruto's basic schooling. Taking a sip of her sake, Tsunade look at Anko and says, "We can't just walk back to Konoha and accuse the Uchiha clan of attempted murder without some kind of hard evidence. That's why I need you to be my eyes and ears in Konoha." "What do you want me to do, Tsunade-sama?" Anko says while taking a sip of her own sake. Looking into her sake dish, Tsunade answers, "I want you to keep close tabs on any Uchiha you think could be involved in Naruto's assault. Collect any evidence you can and bring it to me. But remember this, you are not to do anything else without first consulting me, got it?" Naruto doesn't need to hear that his Nechan got herself incarcerated or worse killed because she acted too rashly. Anko lowered her head and gave a sigh of defeat. "Hi Tsunade-sama, I swear I won't do anything rash. Unless I'm provoked, that is." Before the conversation could go any further, 2 Konoha shinobi approached their table. One was a man dressed in a standard jonin outfit. This gentleman had a beard and a cigarette in his mouth. The other one was a woman about the same age as Anko, dressed in a standard chunin outfit with black hair and red eyes. Tsunade's eyes narrowed and feared the worst. Did they find out Naruto was still alive? She said in a cold voice, "What do you two want?" Both shinobi were shocked by the harsh reception given to them. The man said, "I'm sorry for our intrusion, but we have come to see Anko-san." Anko just looked at the two and said, "Nice to see you, Asuma, Kurinai." "What do you need to see me for?" Asuma just looks at Anko and replies, "Hokage-sama has requested that we escort you back to Konoha. Ibiki needs your help interrogating a new prisoner." "Can it wait 5 more days? I mean, I'm on vacation here," Anko said as she took a sip of her sake. Kurinai just shook her head. "Anko, you know full well that this can't wait, otherwise he wouldn't have sent us to get you." "Fine," growls Anko as she stands up. Tsunade also gets up, looks at Anko and says, "I'll send Shizen your regards." Then proceeds to walk out of the bar. After Tsunade departs, Kurinai looks at Anko and asks what was that all about. Let's just say she recently learned of something that made her detest Konoha even more. Not that I blame her though. "Are you talking about that Naruto kid's death?" asked Asuma. Anko just glared at him before saying let's go, and headed off toward Konoha. Knowing full well that Anko was close to the boy, Kurinai just shook her head before saying idiot. Then follows after Anko. Asuma, completely clueless as to what that was all about, just shrugged his shoulders before following the other two. Time skip. It's been 3 years since Tsunade and Shizen found Naruto by the roadside, and in that time he has learned a great deal. Shizen would give him his basic skills such as reading, writing and mathematics, as well as help Tsunade with his medical training. Tsunade for her part would help Naruto with his chakra control by teaching more control exercises such as water walking. She also started to train him in her taijutsu style, and he already is quickly starting to master it. Tsunade also made sure that Naruto had as much of a normal childhood as possible. Whenever Anko got a chance to visit, she would work on reinforcing his chakra control and working on his weapon accuracy, by having him do what he so affectionately called training from hell by Anko Nichin. Speaking of Anko, we currently find her jumping from rooftop to rooftop, in the middle of the night, toward the Uchiha district. Her thoughts are currently about how she has yet to acquire anything on the Uchiha clan. 3 years. 3 bloody years. And I have yet to find a damn thing on those bastards. As she lands on a rooftop adjacent to the Uchiha compound, she starts to scan the area for anything out of the ordinary. Through the darkness, Anko could make out 2 figures lying on the ground. Just as she was going to go get a closer look, she hears a voice. "Hello, Anko," said the cold and calm voice of someone standing behind Anko. As she jumped away from the voice, Anko twisted in midair so that when she lands she will be facing the person that knows her name. When she finally sees this person, her eyes narrow, and one word escapes her lips: Itachi. Showing no emotion to Anko's reaction, he simply says, "Have you come here to stop me?" Being caught off guard by that statement, Anko had to ask, "What the hell are you talking about? I killed off the Uchiha clan, and was on my way out of Konoha when I ran into you. So I ask again, are you going to try and stop me?" Came the calm voice of Itachi, his face showing no emotion when he talked about killing his clan. Anko just shrugs her shoulders and says, "Not really. If I had known ahead of time, I might have come earlier, just so I could join in. But I do have one question, why?" Itachi was mentally surprised by Anko's remake but gave no outward sign of it. Before he turns to leave, he tells her, "Your decision to not interfere is a wise course of action. With that seal on you, you're no threat to me." Anko's hand instinctively went up to her neck and started to rub the seal. As Itachi starts to head toward the outer walls of the village, he says, "One more thing. The reason I killed my clan was because they had become a threat to me. Farewell, Anko." After Itachi left, Anko just stood there for a little while rubbing the seal on her neck while thinking, what the hell does he mean? Because of the seal I'm no threat to him? After the Uchiha massacre, the Sandaime Hokage decided to raise the age at which you can graduate from the academy, as a way to prevent another person from gaining too much power at too young of an age. As for Anko, she was questioned about what happened that night. She told them everything she knew, minus the fact that she would have joined in and the fact that she basically let him go. It took several months for things to calm down enough for Anko to get some time off so she could go and see Naruto, Tsunade, and Shizen to inform them of what she knew about the massacre. When Anko finally caught up with them, they were by a lake. Shizen was sitting on the shoreline watching as Tsunade and Naruto had a sparring match on the lake's surface. Naruto jumped back as Tsunade came down with a heel drop, spraying water everywhere. As he came in with a counterattack, Tsunade blocked the punch and nailed Naruto in the stomach, causing him to go down to his knees. Your counterattack was to slow Naruto. Getting back up to his feet, Naruto threw a roundhouse kick aimed at her ribcage. Tsunade quickly countered with a sweep to the other leg, causing him to land flat on his back. "I told you before, you need to watch that footwork, Naruto." Naruto jumped away from Tsunade to get some distance, when Tsunade got into a defensive stance and made a come here motion with her hand in a mocking gesture. The already frustrated Naruto lost his cool and charged in a rage, only to find out that Tsunade is holding his left arm behind his back while securing the other arm with her free hand. You can't let yourself become distracted by your frustration in a fight or you lose. Looking toward the shoreline, Tsunade notices that Anko has come to visit them. Releasing Naruto from the hold, she said, "That's enough for today, Naruto-chan, but you still need to work on keeping you cool in battle, got that?" While rubbing his left wrist, Naruto grumbled, "Yes, cousin, I'm trying to keep my cool, but it's so frustrating when I can't get a good hit in, you know. I know how you feel, but keeping your cool will allow you to find a solution to your current problem. But enough about that, it looks like we have a visitor," says Tsunade as she points toward the shore. Anko was amazed at the level of control that Naruto had shown during the fight. Amazing he was able to stay atop the water during the whole fight even when Tsunade-sama got in a few good hits. When did the Gaki get so good at controlling his chakra? Shizen looks over at Anko and says they've been at it like that for the past couple of hours. No. I still can't believe how much stamina Naruto-kun has. Anko could only nod her head in agreement to that statement. Indeed, it seemed that Naruto had an almost unlimited amount of energy. He could go on like that for hours and still have enough left to run around afterwards. Anko was brought out of her thought by none other than Naruto as he tackled her, saying, "I missed you, Anko Nichin." Tsunade couldn't help but laugh at the antics of her son, but a quick look from Anko told her that they needed to talk privately. Looking at Shizen, Tsunade said, "Shizen, why don't you take Naruto-chan and start his anatomy lesson, okay?" Shizen understood the underlining message, that she wanted to talk to Anko alone, so she nodded and said, of course Tsunade-sama. Come on Naruto-kun, let's go and start your lesson now. Okay, but I want to spend some time with Anko-nichan, complained Naruto. She will still be here after your lesson, now get a move on before she really does have to go back, said Tsunade as she gave him a look that meant there was no room for discussion. After Shizen took Naruto away, Anko got a very serious look on her face and said, have you heard about the Uchiha massacre? Only rumors that the entire clan was wiped out, so what really happened? Itachi killed his entire clan save for his younger brother Sasuke. As for why he did it, all I can tell you is that he said they have become a threat to him, he said. What aren't you telling me? Getting a sheepish grin and rubbing the back of her head, Anko replied, well you see, I kind of ran into him when I was doing my surveillance of the Uchiha compound. When I told him I wouldn't fight him, he said that because of that seal I was no threat to him. Do you know what he meant by that? Tsunade started to rub her temples after hearing all that Anko had to say. Well, he could have meant the fact that when it's active it causes you great pain, and you are unable to use your chakra properly. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. Now let's head back to town so you can visit with that son of mine. Nodding at the explanation given to her about the seal, they both head back to town, to catch up with Shizen and Naruto. Tsunade couldn't help but continue think about what Itachi said about Anko's seal. What did you mean, Itachi, when you said that because of the seal she was no threat? Is there more to that seal than what we already know? I'll have to look into this. Now on with the story. It has been 1 year since the Uchiha massacre, and Tsunade was no closer to understanding what Itachi meant about Anko's seal other than what they already figured out. Tsunade had thought about talking to Jiraiya about the seal, but there were 3 reasons that this didn't happen. The first was the simple fact that she has no idea where he was or how she would go about finding him without aimlessly wander all over the place. Something that she had no intention of doing right now. The second was because Jiraiya was a self-proclaimed super pervert, and she didn't want him to try and corrupt her son. The third and most important reason had to do with Naruto himself. She didn't want to gamble on whether Jiraiya would keep quiet about Naruto or would he tell Sarutobi-sensei about him. Tsunade may be a chronic gambler, but one thing she will not gamble with is the safety of her son. Because of these reasons, Tsunade decided to contact Jiraiya as a last resort, but that wouldn't stop her from asking him if they happened to come across each other. So she has been looking for any information she can find about seals at every village that they come across. She would talk to anyone that had any experience with seals and would try to find books on the subject. But still no luck, and Anko's seal seemed to have been suppressed by whatever method the Hokage used, so she still had time. Right now she had more pressing matters to attend to, like getting back to Naruto's training. Tsunade wanted to try a new type of chakra control technique that would help him if he wanted to try and control Kyuubi's chakra in the future. So she had Naruto on the outskirts of town. After picking up some pebbles, she starts her lesson. Alright Naruto-chan, today I'm going to teach you a new control technique. I want you to use these pebbles and keep them perfectly balanced on the tips of your fingers while being able to move your fingers like you normally do, like this, okay? After this explanation, Tsunade gives a demonstration of the technique by moving her fingers around while keeping the pebbles on the tips of her fingers. Come on Kazan, this will be easy. I was hoping for a more challenging exercise. I'll have this mastered by the end of the day, said a confident Naruto. Confident, aren't we? It's not as easy as you think it is, but how about we make a little wager on it, huh? A bet, Kazan? Yes, a bet. If you can get to the point where you can do this exercise with your left hand by the end of 3 days, then I'll give up sake for a week. Naruto was shocked by this statement. His cousin was willing to give up sake for a week just to prove him wrong. His only response was, really? Yes, really. But if I win, you have to give up ramen for a week. What? Not the ramen, anything but my ramen, yelled the shocked Naruto. What? Did my little Naruto-chan lose all his confidence already? What happened to mastering it in 1 day? I'm giving you 3 full days to learn it. Pretty generous of me, don't you think? Tsunade said to egg him on. Naruto thought about it for a moment before saying, okay, it's a bet, but are there any other restrictions besides the time limit? Puzzled, Tsunade decided to see where this line of questioning was leading to. No, I won't put any other restrictions. So why did you want to know about that anyway? Naruto just rubbed the back of his head while giving a sheepish grin. No real reason, really. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be cheating using this move. Raising her eyebrows slightly, Tsunade asked, what move? Naruto's sheepish grin turned into a foxy grin as his hands formed a cross seal as he shouted, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. As 5 Narutos appeared, Tsunade's eyes widened in shock. What the hell? Kage Bunshins. Where the hell did he learn Kage Bunshin no Jutsu? Naruto-chan, where did you learn that move and why haven't you used it before when we were training? He rubbed the back of his head again while saying, well, you see, flashback 6 months ago on Naruto's birthday, Anko had just finished up one of Naruto's training sessions when she asked him a question. Hey Gaki, how many ninjutsu skills do you have? Well, all Kazan has taught me is Kawarimi, Henge, and Bunshin no Jutsu. Aside from that, just some medial jutsu. Why? Well, I thought I would give you a special jutsu for your birthday present. It's called Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, said Anko with a grin on her face. But Anko-nichan, I already know a Bunshin jutsu, said an annoyed Naruto. Hitting him on his head, Anko responses, it's not a regular Bunshin Gaki. This jutsu creates solid clones, not just illusions, but the best part of all is that when you dispel them, that you gain all of their experience. Meaning you could use this jutsu to learn at an incredible rate. Naruto's eyes got real wide hearing this, and said awesome, I can use those clone for all sort of sneak attacks when I get into a real fight. Hurry up Nachan, I want to learn this just before we go and meet back up with Kazan and Shizen-ichan. Anko couldn't help but smile at her Ototo's enthusiasm at wanting to learn a new jutsu. Alright Gaki, here's how it done. End flashback. And that's how I learned it Kazan, said Naruto. Tsunade just shook her head after hearing Naruto's explanation. Why am I not surprised? Anyway, now why don't you tell me why you haven't used it before now? Well, I don't like to use it when I'm learning something new, it just feels like I'm cheating or something, but I do use it when I want to refine any of skills. Then why are you using it to learn this technique? Since my ramen is at stake here, I'll use everything at my disposal to win, said all 5 Narutos as they started to train. As Tsunade watched him train, she started to regret ever making this bet. I have a feeling that I'm going to have a rough week after this is over. When we get back I'll just have to drink my fill till then. But if he can master this, then I think it's time for him to learn some of my more advanced techniques. Tsunade's feeling turned out to be true as Naruto mastered the control exercise, winning the bet and teaching Tsunade to never bet against him. After a miserable week without her sake, Tsunade finally decided to teach Naruto how to summon. As Naruto was signing the slug contract, Shizen decided to talk to Tsunade about this. Tsunade-sama, do you think he's ready for this? I mean, he is still just a kid after all. You worry too much Shizen, trust me, if he can master the pedal exercise in 3 days he'll be able to do this easily, said a proud Tsunade. But still, don't you think you're giving him too much power for his age? That's enough Shizen, he'll be fine. Have faith in him, we raised him better than to let it go to his head. I know, but Shizen never got to finish that sentence, as they felt Naruto building up his chakra. After Naruto finished signing the contract, he bit his thumb and went through the hand seals that his cousin showed him, before slamming his hand into the ground while saying Kuchios and Ojutsu. When the smoke cleared, the same slug that delivered the messages to Anko all those years ago was before Naruto. Impressive Naruto-sama, to be able to summon me on your first try. You are definitely someone my mistress Katsuyu will want to keep an eye on, said the slug before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Naruto just stared at the spot where the slug had been before saying, Wait, don't I even get to say hello? Tsunade started to laugh at the events that had just transpired. You'll have to forgive Kamikyo for her abruptness, it's just in her nature to report directly to Katsuyu when she finds something of interest. If he's already able to get to this level in his summoning, then I think I'll have him figure out how to use my super strength on his own, with just a couple of hints along the way. Shizen for her part was just in a state of shock. Naruto-kun was able to summon a slug of that size on his first attempt? Turning her head to look at Naruto walking over to them, just giving one of his foxy grins while he has both hands behind his head, she could only think, I see what Tsunade-sama meant now. No matter how much power he acquires, it doesn't change him at all. It's like he was always meant to have it. Time skip. It's been 1 year since Naruto learned to summon, and his progress with Tsunade's super strength technique has been slow. Even with Tsunade's hint, it has taken him this long to get the basics of using his chakra to heighten his strength. In fact, this is what we find Naruto working on right now. He is standing on the water in the middle of a lake with Shizen by the shoreline, leaning against a tree trunk reading a book, with her pet Tuntun sleeping beside her. While Tsunade is in town taking care of her business, Naruto was staring at one of the pebbles in his hand, trying to figure out how to use his chakra to enhance his strength so he can embed the pebble into the tree trunk. That Shizen was leaning starts to channel his chakra while thinking, let's see if I can control my chakra enough to enhance and strengthen my muscles to do this. Naruto takes aim and flicks the pebble toward the shore. Shizen was really enjoying the book she was reading when she suddenly felt something was past her head, and then she heard a cracking sound behind her. Turning her head to look at what caused the noise, looking at the tree, she sees a small pebble embedded into the bark. Shizen looked back over at Naruto to see him jumping up and down in joy. She then looked back at the tree trunk. Did Naruto-kun figure out how to do it already? And Naruto-kun, how did you do that? Before Naruto could answer, clapping could be heard as Tsunade came walking up to the tree trunk. Well done Naruto-chan, looks like you were finally able to figure out the basics for my strength. I'm impressed. It took Shizen about 1.5 years before she figured it out. Now we can focus of strengthening it and making it a permanent, and we will also work on how to meditate, because I think it's time that you learn how to access Kyuubi's chakra. Over the next few months Naruto had a hard time learning how to meditate. The main reason for this was his mind was always on alert. Even tough he's been with Tsunade and Shizen for more than 5 years, he still had a hard time letting his defenses down. When Tsunade found out about this, she couldn't help but feel sorry for Naruto, and her anger toward what Konoha has done to him would grow. As time passed, Tsunade did everything she could to help Naruto realize that he no longer had to keep his defenses all the time. Then one day as Naruto was trying to meditate, he heard what sounded like a low growl. Opening his eyes, he was surprised to find himself in what looked like a sewer. Naruto lowered his head and just sighed. Great, just great, I guess this gives new meaning to the saying having your mind in the gutter. After hearing another growl echo through the corridors, Naruto just shrugged his shoulders and thought might as well follow the sound, as he headed down the corridor. Eventually he came before a large gate with a paper that had seal written on it. 2 big glowing red eyes can be seen behind the gate as a loud voice says, so my jailer has decided to grace me with his presence. As a giant fox comes out of the shadows behind the gate. Naruto's eyes narrow at the fox as he says, so you're the great Kyuubi I've read so much about. You're also the cause of all the hatred I got while I lived in Konoha. Kyuubi mentally flinched at the last comment before saying, don't believe everything you read, Kit. You might be surprised by what you find. Naruto raised an eyebrow and said, and what would surprise me? Kyuubi get a smile on its face as it says, well, for starters this. Then the giant fox starts to transform into its human appearance. The first thing Naruto noticed as the Kyuubi came into view was the fact that the great demon fox was in fact a woman, and a beautiful one at that, with shoulder-length blood-red hair. She was wearing a red battle kimono with a navy blue sash around her waist, black shinobi-style pants with white wrapping around her shins, and a black pair of shinobi sandals. Naruto had to admit that his was indeed surprised. None of the text he read about the Kyuubi ever mentioned that the demon fox was in fact a girl. Kyuubi couldn't help but laugh at the look of shock on Naruto's face. After she calmed down, she got a sad look on her face before saying, look, kid, I just want to say that I'm sorry for how your life has been like before you met that Tsunade person. I'm not asking for forgiveness or anything like that, and I can understand if you hate me, but I just wanted you to know that's all. If Naruto was shocked before, he was totally floored by that statement. What the hell? I figured that Kyuubi would be a bloodthirsty monster or something. If she's being honest with me, then who knows what else about her has been misleading. After recovering from his shock, Naruto decided to ask, look, there's nothing to forgive. You weren't responsible for the treatment I received when I lived in Konoha. And anyway, I have a couple of questions. First would have to be, why did you attack Konoha in the first place? The second would have to be, why everyone always refers to you as a bloodthirsty monster? Kyuubi was surprised by the fact that Naruto didn't blame her for what happened to him. Then she heard his questions and she sighed before saying, I'm not ready to talk about why I attacked Konoha yet, Kit, but I will tell you that I had my reasons. Fair enough, I guess, but when you're ready I would like to know. Fine, Kyuubi said before she got a smile on her face and continued, now about your second question. I've been around for thousands of years, Kit, so naturally I've gotten a reputation for being a bit aggressive when I get mad. A bit aggressive? If I believe what I've read, you've leveled entire cities, for crying out loud. Kyuubi gets a sheepish smile on her face and uses her right index finger to scratch her cheek before saying, well, you know what they say, hell hath no fury like a woman's scorn. Naruto just stared at her for a second before saying, you have got to be kidding me. You're telling me that you leveled those cities because someone pissed you off? Kyuubi just shrugged her shoulders and Naruto brought his hand up to his lowered head and started to shake it back and forth. Unbelievable. Remind me to never get on your bad side, Bachan. A vein started to pulse on Kyuubi's forehead as she clenched her fist and yelled, I'm not old. But you said that you've been around for thousands of years, so you must be really old, Kyuubi Bacon. Kyuubi just sweat dropped after hearing that, and then she just shook her head and decided to get to the point. Look, Kit, let's just get back to the original reason that you came here, okay? That being you want to gain access to my chakra, correct? Naruto just nods his head and lets her continue. I've seen how your training has been going and I must say that I'm impressed. So I've decided that along with giving you access to my chakra, when I deem it necessary, I'll also be training you in the art of genjutsu. Naruto was completely surprised by this, and he couldn't help but ask this question, why are you offering to help train me? Consider it an apology for all the pain my coming to Konoha has caused you, said Kyuubi with a sad smile. After thinking about it, Naruto could see no cons for taking up her offer. Alright, I agree to your offer, besides my genjutsu need a lot of work anyways. With the two of them coming to an agreement, Naruto returns to the real world, where he is greeted by a concerned Tsunade and Shizen. After explaining what just happened and his talk with Kyuubi, Tsunade reluctantly agreed with Naruto's decision with the condition that Naruto will tell her everything that Kyuubi teaches him. Time skip. So over the next 4 years Naruto's skill improves with Tsunade and Shizen helping him with medical jutsu and taijutsu, Anko's help in ninjutsu, weapons and speed, and Kyuubi helps him with genjutsu and also giving him tips on how to increase his speed. Naruto's appearance has changed over the years. He let his hair grow a little longer, about the yondaime hair length, with the hair on the back of his head being a little long, to put it in a low ponytail, a fishnet shirt with an orange sleeveless battle robe, a blue sash around his waist, black A&BU style pants with white shin guards, and your standard shinobi footwear. Now we find Naruto celebrating his 14th birthday at a ramen shop with Tsunade, Shizen and Anko. As he opened the gift Anko got him, he was happy to get a tan trench coat that looked just like Anko's. Naruto put on the trench coat and then got a smile on his face and said, perfect fit. Thanks, Anko-nichan, I've been thinking about getting one for a while now. How did you know? Anko just gives a quick glance over towards Tsunade and ruffled his hair before saying, I have my sources, Gaki, I'm just glad you like it. Naruto pushes Anko's hand off his head while saying, stop that, Anko-nichan, I'm not a little kid anymore, you know. The group just laughed at Naruto's antics. He opened Shizen's gift next only to find a brand new kunai and shuriken set. Thanks, Shizen-nichan, I've been needing a new set, my old one is starting to get a little worn down. Shizen just smiled and said, you're welcome, Naruto-kun. After Naruto finished putting his new weapons away, Tsunade walks up to him, looks him in the eye. Can we please let this feeling I have be right? It just feels like he should have this. Tsunade reaches behind her neck and takes off her necklace. Naruto-chan, I want to give you this, says Tsunade as she places the necklace around his neck over top the necklace that Anko gave him on his 5th birthday. Naruto widened his eyes in shock, knowing full well the story behind it. Kazan, I'm not little anymore, you don't have to call me that anymore. And besides, this belonged to great-grandfather as well. As he looked down and let the sentence drag out, Tsunade just smiled and said, "You'll always be my little Naruto-chan," causing Naruto to pout a little. Shizen decided to ask Tsunade-sama why. Tsunade looked reflective as she said, "Watching Naruto-chan's training over the years got me to thinking about it. And you know what, it just felt like the right thing to do." Hearing the tone in Tsunade's voice, Shizen and Naruto knew not to press the issue. Naruto just looks down at the necklace before smiling up at Tsunade and said, "Thanks Kazan, I promise to take good care of it, and prove to you that your feeling was right." Just as Naruto finished his sentence, a voice saying "Tsunade" was heard from the front door of the shop. Tsunade turned her head toward the door only to see the one person she was not expecting to see. The only word to escape her lips was Jiraiya. "What are you doing here?" Naruto looked over the door to see a man with white spiky hair, made up in a ponytail, a headband with the kanji for oil on it, a scroll on his back, with a green robe and pants with a red vest. His only response was to ask Kazan, "Who is this guy?" Before Tsunade could answer, Jiraiya goes into one of his introductions by hopping around on one foot, one arm stretched out and the other behind his head. He starts to say, "I'm known as the Great Toad Sage, but that is just an alias. North, south, east, and west. I am the Toad." Tsunade comes up behind Jiraiya and hits him in the head. Cut the theatrics. Jiraiya rubs the back of his head as he says, "Man, Tsuhime, is that any way to greet an old friend?" Jiraiya then notices the boy that is with Tsunade and his eyes widen in shock. "It can't be. I was told he was dead." Getting a serious look on his face, he points to Naruto and asks Tsunade, "Is that who I think it is?" Tsunade got a worried look on her face before asking, "And who do you think he is?" "Cut the crap, Tsunade. The look on your face tells me that I'm right. He's Naruto Uzumaki, isn't he?" This causes everyone in the group to stop what they were doing and look over at Jiraiya. Tsunade gives him a harsh glare and responds with, "And what if he is? Well, first off, I would like to know how he is still alive and how he came to be with you." So Tsunade reluctantly told Jiraiya the story of their first meeting and her taking him on as her son and apprentice, getting in contact with Anko, and all the training he's done. By the end of the story, Jiraiya couldn't help but feel a mixture of anger and happiness for everything that has happened to the boy. Tsunade had to ask, "So now that you know the whole story, what do you plan to do now?" Jiraiya thought about it for a while before raising his fist in the air and saying, "Right now nothing, besides it looks like I interrupted a party, so let's get back to it." So they resumed the party for a while before it was starting to get late. At the end of the party, Tsunade takes Jiraiya outside so they can have a private conversation. "Alright Jiraiya, what are you really planning to do about my son?" Jiraiya just looks at her before sighing, "Look Tsuhime, I really don't plan on doing anything about him. I mean, he really does seem to be happy here. But you can't really blame him. I mean, he's surrounded by beautiful women 24/7, man, some people have all the luck." Tsunade just shook her head. "I see you haven't changed. Anyway, since we ran into each other, there is something I want to ask you. Can you look into what the seal on Anko is really supposed to do?" This caught Jiraiya's attention. "What exactly do you mean by that?" "Well, a few years ago someone told Anko that she was no threat to them because of the seal that she has. So I've been trying to find out what this person meant by that. I haven't been able to find out anything out on my own. So you would like me to look into it, huh?" He thinks about it for a minute before saying, "I'll help you out, Tsuhime. I can't just leave someone to Orochimaru's twisted plans now, can I?" Tsunade let out a sigh of relief before looking back at Jiraiya. "There's just one more favor I need to ask, and that is, could you keep the fact that Naruto is still alive to yourself? I don't want anyone that wants to harm him to find out he's still alive." "Fine, I'll keep your secret for now, but you have to realize that you can't keep it a secret forever. They will find out eventually, you know," Jiraiya said in a serious voice. Tsunade puts her head down and says, "I know Jiraiya, but when that time comes I want him to be ready. I want Konoha to realize what a mistake it was to just throw him away like that." "Jiraiya, it pains me to ask this as well, but do you think you could help Naruto-chan with his ninjustice skills? Anko-san has already taught him some justice, but she doesn't want to teach him any of Orochimaru's justice. Let me think about it, okay? You know I said I wouldn't train anybody else after he died." Tsunade just nods and then returns to the party, leaving Jiraiya to his thoughts. "Man, when Sarutobi-sensei asked me to keep track of Anko to see if she had become a threat to the village, I didn't expect to find this." He looks up at the night sky and sighs, "Sorry Tsuhime, but I will have to tell him that Anko meets up with you and your new family. So he knows that Anko isn't going to betray us. But I won't tell him that the boy is Naruto, though he may figure it out." Then he too goes to rejoin the party. Chapter 5, Journey to the Land of Waves. Hokage Tower. Sarutobi is currently sitting at his desk sorting through today's mission requests when his thought drift back to the report that Jiraiya gave him 6 months ago. He was relieved to discover that Anko was just meeting up with Tsunade when she would leave the village. But what really surprised him was the fact that his old student had apparently adopted a young boy and taken him under her wing. What was really bugging Sarutobi was that even Anko seemed attached to the boy. According to the report, she even got him a birthday present. That's when it finally hit him that this boy's birthday fell around the same time as Naruto's, and the description of the boy was similar to what Naruto might look like if he lived to that age. Could this boy be Naruto? It makes sense, but how did he survive? From the amount of blood in that alley, there's no way he survived. And yet this boy's description is very similar, though Jiraiya did refuse to tell me anything about him, beyond the fact that he has blue eyes and blonde hair. Coming out of his thoughts, Sarutobi just sighed and decided to drop the matter. There was proof that it was him anyway. And if it was really Naruto, then he was happy that the boy finally found people who care about him. And if it wasn't, then no need to disrupt his life any further. Clearing his head from this line of thought, Sarutobi went back to reading the mission requests, and found a C-ranked bodyguard mission. He thought would be perfect for Kakashi's team even though he was a member short. But he had a solution for that as he went through the available genin until he came across one person whose other team members had clan business, and would be unable to do missions for a little while. Sarutobi sat back in his chair with a smile on his face, thinking about how this mission will help her out. On a boat heading to the land of waves, we find Naruto, Tsunade, and Shizen on the deck of the boat looking out at the fog-covered water. While Naruto looks over the edge of the boat, Tsunade turns to Shizen and says, "Remind me again, why are we on this boat heading to the land of waves?" Shizen lowered her head and let out a sigh. "Don't you remember, Tsunade-sama? Because Naruto-kun paid off that huge debt you racked up in the last village. You said he could choose our next destination. I just wish I knew where he got the money from." Tsunade thought about it for a second before saying, "Oh yeah." She then proceeded to get a big grin on her face before picking up Tuntun and saying, "Well, no use worrying about it. Now we'll just have to enjoy ourselves." As the boat got closer to land, a huge bridge that was under construction came into view. Naruto just looked up at the imposing structure in wonder and said, "Wow. I couldn't agree more, kid. That structure is indeed impressive." Naruto just shook his head as he heard Kyuubi's voice. Even after 4 years he was still not used to hearing her voice in his head. "I still can't believe that the seal was designed to let you have a connection to the outside through my senses. And even allowed us to communicate like this, Bachan." Kyuubi shook her head before she let out a small laugh. "You would think that after all these years you would at least call me Nei-chan. Anyway, I was just as surprised as you were to find out that the seal allowed this to happen. It makes me wonder if that yandere of yours knew I would help train you, because it's defiantly easier this way, don't you think? You could be right, but that would mean he knew about your true nature and at least suspected what your reason was for attacking Konoha. Which, by the way, Bachan, you still haven't told me yet." Kyuubi remained silent after that, and Naruto understood not to press the matter any further. Tsunade noticed Naruto staring off into space and realized that he must be talking to Kyuubi. She still couldn't believe how close Naruto seems to have gotten with Kyuubi. I mean, after they first met, Naruto just treated her like he would anyone, but over the years Tsunade could tell that Naruto had started to think of her as a real Obachan. Tsunade still found it funny that the great Kyuubi was being called old by a young boy. After they boat docked and everyone disembarked, Tsunade decided that they should find an inn first. So we find the trio walking down one of the streets. Naruto couldn't help but notice the suffering and poverty of the city. "Kazan, do you think that all of Wave is like this?" asked Naruto. Tsunade had a sad expression on her face from seeing the poor conditions around her before saying, "I don't know, Naruto-chan, but we'll worry about that after we find a place to stay." Right after Tsunade finished talking, a scream could be heard in the alleyway up ahead. Before Tsunade and Shizen could react to the scream, Naruto was already running into the alleyway to see what was going on. As Naruto entered the alleyway, he saw 2 men cornering a woman who was holding a bag of groceries. Naruto heard one of the men say, "So you tell that old man to stop his construction, or we can't guarantee you or that kid of yours safety." After he said that, the man went to put a knife to her throat to emphasize his point when a hand grabbed his wrist. Looking over, the man saw a young boy with blonde hair. "It's no very nice to threaten someone who can't defend themselves, you know," said Naruto as he tightened his grip on the man's wrist, causing him to drop the blade. The man backed away from Naruto, glaring at him, while he rubbed his wrist. "Look, you little shit, don't go getting yourself involved in stuff that is over your head." The second man pulled out his own knife before adding, "Besides, if you play with fire, and you're going to get burned, so just walk away." Naruto just looked at the two of them with a bored expression before saying, "Look, if you don't leave this lady alone, I'm going to have to stop you. And let me give you a little warning, I'm a lot stronger than I look, okay?" As he walks over to a piece of rubble that is in the alleyway, and uses his fist to completely destroy it. Both men just gap at this before saying, "WW, whatever you say, kid." And quickly running out of the alley, passing by Tsunade and Shizen as they make it to the entrance. After seeing those 2 men run past them, Tsunade and Shizen looked down the alley to see Naruto checking on a young woman who was just attacked. "Are you okay, miss?" asked Naruto as he helped her pick up her groceries that had fallen out during the encounter. The woman moved her hair out of her face as she looked up at the boy who had helped her, and said, "I'm alright. By the way, thank you for saving me from those 2 men. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along." "That's alright, you don't need to thank me, I just can't stand to see people suffer, that's all." "Oh, my name Naruto, and these 2 people are Tsunade Kazan and Shizen Ichin," said Naruto as he pointed to the 2 ladies coming into the alley. "Oh, where are my manners? My name is Tsunami, and I just want to thank you all for your concern," said Tsunami as she bowed at Tsunade and Shizen. Tsunade walks up to Naruto and starts to rub his head while she says, "No need to thank us, we just happened to be passing by as we searched for an inn." Tsunami got a smile on her face after hearing this, and said, "Why don't you stay at my house? It used to be an inn, so there is plenty of room. Just think of this as my way of repaying you." Tsunade was never one to pass up anything free, readily agrees to the lodging arrangements, and the group head over to Tsunami's home. Along the way, Naruto had to ask Tsunami-san, "Has Wave always been like this?" Tsunami got a sad look on her face, and said, "No, it wasn't always like this. Wave used to be a happy and prosperous place until a man called Gato started to buy up all of the shipping companies. Tsunade's eyes widened at this and said Gato as in the big shipping tycoon, not to mention he has a whole bunch of illegal gambling halls and how knows what else. You're right Tsunade-san, but that's not all. Aside from that, he is a big-time underworld figure and will use any means necessary to get what he wants. Tsunade looked over at Tsunami with a sad expression. Sounds like you know this from personal experience. Tsunami just lowered her head before saying I don't want to talk about it. Understanding what she meant, Tsunade just left it at that, and dropped the subject. When they arrived at Tsunami's home, a small boy ran out to meet his mother. Cousin, what took you so long? Said the boy as he noticed Naruto, Tsunade, and Shirzine and got a scowl on his face. And who are these people? Tsunami got a smile on her face and knelt down to face him and said, don't worry Inari, these people saved me from some bad men earlier, and I offered them a place to stay. Inari just looked at the group and scoffed. What, you guys think you're some kind of heroes or something? Well, I've got news for you, there's no such thing as heroes. And then he just ran back into the house. What the hell was that about? Asked a confused Naruto. Tsunami got a sad expression on her face, but before she could say anything Tsunade spoke up. Just let it go Naruto-chan, it's none of our business anyway. Naruto remained quiet after that, but he was thinking just let it go. What the hell does Cousin know that I don't? What do you think, Bachan? I think that Tsunade is right, kid. It looks like this is a touchy subject with them. It's best to just let it go for now and let them tell you when they're ready. Alright, I'll drop it for now, but he better not act like that all the time though. Later that evening we find Tsunami cooking everyone dinner while Naruto and Tsunade are sitting at the table playing cards, with Shizen close by drinking some tea, and Inari is closely watching them. As Naruto was looking at his cards, the front door opened. Tsunade looked over to see 5 people come in. One was an older man with a straw hat, a dirty white shirt and pants. This man was carrying a sake bottle as well. Tsunade froze when she saw the rest of the group. One was a girl with long dark with a baggy jacket and black biker pants. The other girl had pink hair wearing a red dress and had black biker shorts. The young boy had black hair and a blue high-collar shirt and gray shorts. Who was carrying the one that really caught her eye was the man that had silver hair that seemed to defy gravity, and was wearing a standard Jonin outfit with his left eye covered by his headband. Her only thoughts were, Kakashi, what the hell are you doing here? Kakashi looked around the room when his eye settled on the group of people sitting at the table. When he saw Tsunade, his eye widened. Tsunade-sama, what could you be doing here? Kakashi was not the only one to notice Tsunade's presence. The girl wearing the red dress was wondering the same thing, but her thoughts were broken when she heard Tsunade speak. What the hell are you doing here, Kakashi? Tsunade said in a cold tone. Kakashi was a little surprised by the clawed tone in her voice, just responded in a calm voice, me and my team consisting Sakura. He points to the girl in the red dress. This year's Rookie of the Year Sasuke Uchiha, points to the boy in the blue shirt. Hearing that name caused Tsunade and Shizen to stiffen slightly. Kakashi continues with the introductions, and this is Hinata, points to the dark-haired girl poking her index fingers together. She's our temporary member for this mission. So that's Sasuke, the one that Itachi let live, thought Tsunade as she looked over at Sasuke. After hearing the introductions, Naruto finally looks up from his cards and surveys the newcomers. When he sees the symbol on their headbands, he stiffens slightly and hears Kyubi growling. So they're from Konoha, huh? I wonder what they're here for. By the looks of the silver-haired guy, I say they were in a fight a little while ago. What do you think, Bachan? Kyubi just studies Kakashi before answering. You're right, Kit, and from the looks of it, it was an intense battle too. That Jonin has used up a lot of chakra. Naruto just nods his head before looking back at his cards while offhandedly saying, you really should get that Kakashi guy to a bed. He looks like he's suffering from a case of chakra exhaustion. Tsunade was surprised by Naruto's reaction. He showed a lot of self-control just now, and his diagnosis of Kakashi was right on the money. A feeling of pride came over Tsunade. Sasuke just grunted and said, heh, like a loser, like you would know what he's talking about. I mean, you're not even a shinobi. Tsunade narrows her eyes and glares at Sasuke while thinking idiot. Shizen just looks at the group and shakes her head. She couldn't believe what she just heard. In her cage, Kyubi's growl got even louder. Come on, kid, show this bastard he doesn't know what he's talking about. Ignoring Kyubi's comment, Naruto grips his cards tighter and looks over at Sasuke to see a smug look on his face, then replies, I see Konoha hasn't changed at all. This comment shocked the group from Konoha. How could this kid talk about their home like he's been there before? Kakashi took a closer look at this teen and his eye got even wider when he saw blonde spiky hair, blue eyes and whisker-like marks on his cheeks. It can't be, there's no way he could have survived that much blood loss. While Kakashi was having a hard time believing that the boy in front of him was Naruto, Sakura got really mad at the callous way this boy talked about her home. She yells, what's that supposed to mean? Yeah, who does this idiot think he is anyway, cha? Naruto, showing no reaction to hostility shown him, simply focuses on Sakura and says it means Konoha is still full of ignorance when it comes to anything other than their own concerns. Sasuke to this as a direct insult to himself and his clan retaliates with, what right do you have to just show up and tell us that we're ignorant? I've never even seen you in Konoha before, so how would you know what life is like there? The fact that you're not even a shinobi means that you're the one who's ignorant. Naruto just shakes his head and lets out a little chuckle before saying, and you call me ignorant? First off, Konoha is a big place, so it's possible to live in that place and never meet someone. Second, you know nothing about me, so don't go making snap decisions about someone, it will get you killed. Naruto places his cards on the table and stands up. He looks over at Tsunade before saying sorry cousin but I don't feel like playing anymore so it looks like you win this game. If you need me I'll be on the roof. After Naruto leaves Shizen look over at Tsunade who just nods her head. Shizen takes this signal and goes to talk to Naruto. Seeing Shizen leave Kakashi looks back over at Tsunade, who just took a sip of sake, and said that was Naruto Uzumaki wasn't it? Tsunade's eyes widened before turning her head back to the sake bottle on the table. Her only thought was did Jiraiya tell them that Naruto was alive? How'd you know? As Sasuke helped Kakashi over to a bed his only response was his birthmarks. I could never forget those whisker marks. This caused Tsunade to let out a sigh of relief. So it looks like Jiraiya keep his word after all. But now that Kakashi knows it won't be long before Sarutobi-sensei find out. We find Naruto lying on the roof with his hands behind his head looking up at the evening sky. You know kid I think you were too soft on them. If it was me I would have made them pay for insulting me like that. Said Kyubi. It a good thing I'm not you then Bachan. If I had done that then who knows what Konoha's reaction would be. I mean not only would they find out that I'm alive but that I was responsible for putting one of their shinobi in the hospital. They would probably make sure I was dead this time, not to mention the danger that would put Kazan and Shizen each in. Just as Naruto finished that line of thought Shizen sat down next to him and asked mind if I join you? Naruto looks over at Shizen and just nods. He doesn't feel like talking right now. After a while Shizen decides to break the silence. So Naruto-kun, I'm really proud of how you handled yourself in there. But how do you feel about seeing people from Konoha again? Naruto just continues to look at the sky and says honestly I don't know how to feel right now. Part of me hates that place for what it did to me back then. All the beatings and hatred I received was really rough. Then came the murder attempts. It's not something I can just forget. But there's another part of me that's grateful it all happened too. Shizen just looked at Naruto in shock. What do you mean a part of you is grateful? They put you through hell and you're happy about that? I'm not happy about the hell they put me through but if it wasn't for them then I don't think I ever would have met you or Kazan. I never would have known what it was like to have a family. Said Naruto as he stared off into the night sky. Shizen got a smile on her face. So Naruto-kun isn't happy about what they put him through but by the fact that he was able to finally get a family. Shizen put her hand on Naruto's shoulder and says come on Naruto-kun it's starting to get chilly out here so why don't we go back inside and I'll make you a cup of tea. That sound good Shizen-ichan. Said Naruto as they both got up and headed back inside. Both of them failed to notice a person sitting behind the chimney with her legs against her chest. Hinata just sat there for a while thinking about what she just heard Naruto and Shizen talk about. So he did live in Konoha for a while, and his life was filled with nothing but pain, loneliness and people always putting him down. He's just like me, but I wasn't strong enough to come through it like he was. Hinata then hugged her legs even tighter wishing that she was stronger. Gato's hideout. Gato had just finished hearing his two thugs' excuse for failing to intimidate the bridge builder's daughter, and about the young boy who stopped them. You two are completely useless if you're unable to stop a kid from save that builder's daughter. What do you think I'm paying you for anyway? One of the men got on his knees and said but boss you've got to understand this is no normal kid I mean he was able to turn a big piece of rubble into nothing but dust with just one punch. This caught the attention of one Zabuza Momochi and his follower Haku. Zabuza wanted to know more about this boy, but he was still injured from his fight with Kakashi so he was unable to go look into this matter himself. Before he could offer Haku's assistance Gato spoke. Well then I'll just have to send someone to see if this kid really is a threat to my plans. Shadow come out here. A figure came out of the shadows wearing a black cloak and hood that covered their face, and the part of the face that was visible was covered up by a face mask. What is it you want Gato? Gato just glared at him, and said don't talk to me like I'm some punk. You work for me don't ever forget that. I want you to go and check on this kid my men were talking about, and see if he is a threat to me understood. Shadow just looked at Gato and said sure why not, if this kid is anything like they say then things could get interesting around here. Chapter 6. Encounter in the Woods. It has been a few days since Naruto's encounter with Team 7 and Tsunade has decided to let him let off some steam with a little spar with Shizen. So we find Naruto, Tsunade, and Shizen in a clearing deep in the woods around Tsunade's house. Alright, the rules are simple. First, the fight ends when I say so. Second, there is to be no genjutsu, or ninjutsu. I don't want a certain shinobi, copying any jutsu, said Tsunade. Naruto just looked at his cousin with a questioning look. Cousin, when you say copying any jutsu do you mean the Sharingan you told me about? Tsunade inwardly cursed herself for saying that out loud. She didn't want Naruto to find out what the Sharingan looked like just yet. Tsunade lets out a sigh and answers well, yes Naruto-chan, as you know it has the ability to analyze any jutsu that they see, and copy it perfectly. Naruto get a scowl on his face and says that still sounds like cheating to me. If you learn it that way, then you might not be able to fully understand its strengths, or its weaknesses, and by the way you still haven't told me what it looks like cousin. Tsunade started to laugh. Naruto already understood the Sharingan's weakness. If one doesn't take the time to fully understand the jutsu then you will never use it to its full potential. That's right Naruto-chan, gaining a jutsu that way is kind of like cheating, because you're not doing any of the work required to fully understand the technique. Now let's get this spar started. Naruto was frustrated that his cousin didn't answer him, so he just nodded and got into his fighting stance, while Shizen got ready as well. Tsunade looked at both of them, and then shouted begin. Naruto decided to start off by throwing some shuriken at Shizen. While she was dodging them, Naruto went around behind her and tried to kick her in the head. Shizen ducked at the last second and went for a sweep, which Naruto jumped over. "Sorry Nachan, but you're not going to get me that easily," said Naruto as he came in with a heel drop. Shizen got out of the way just in time to see a big crater form when Naruto's heel made contact with the ground. Shizen just looked at the crater and thought, if Naruto-kun is going to use his strength, then I'll have to take this seriously, as she readies herself for his next attack. In another part of the forest, Kakashi had Team 7 working on their chakra control by practicing tree walking when all of a sudden the ground shook. Looking around, he spotted dust above the tree line just north of his position. Deciding that they should go investigate, Kakashi called his team over, and they headed off in that direction. When they reached the clearing, Kakashi was surprised to find Tsunade watching a fight between Naruto and Shizen. Kakashi was shocked to see Naruto clinging to trees as he dodged some of Shizen's attacks. Naruto's clinging to the trees like it's second nature to him. Kakashi looks over at a smiling Tsunade and wonders, just how much have you taught him, Tsunade-sama? Sasuke was really pissed off as he watched Naruto spar. His pride was having a hard time believing that this loser was better than him, even if he was trained by Tsunade of the Sannin. As Sasuke continued to watch the fight, he couldn't help but think, where did that loser get this power? I'm an Uchiha, one of the elite clans of Konoha. If anyone deserves to have that kind of power, it should be me, not some loser who isn't even a shinobi. The only thoughts going through the mind of Sakura while she watched the spar were, this kid is good, but Sasuke-kun was still better. As Hinata watched the spar, she just stood there staring in awe. She couldn't believe how strong Naruto was. Hinata watched as Shizen was able to kick Naruto in the stomach, sending him flying through a tree and hit the ground. Shizen landed 5 feet from where Naruto hit the ground. She was a little worried that maybe she hit him too hard. She didn't mean to send him flying through the tree and into the ground. As the debris from the tree landed on the ground, Naruto got to his feet and wiped the blood from his lip. Naruto looked at Shizen and smiled before saying, "Not bad, Nachan, you managed to bust my lip there." Shizen just shook her head in disbelief. "Even if I ask you to surrender, you won't, will you, Naruto-kun?" Naruto's smile got bigger as he said, you got that right, Nachan. I never give up, it's one of the reasons I've lived so long." When Hinata heard those words, her eyes widened as a new sense of purpose filled her, as she decided to try and live up to those words, and never give up. Team 7 was not the only ones who came to see what all the ruckus was about. Haku had been gathering herbs when she heard the sound of battle, so she decided to go investigate, and see if it was a threat to Zabuza. As Haku remained hidden, she observed the spar between a blonde-haired boy and an older woman. Both appeared to be quite skilled when it came to taijutsu. That's when her eyes caught the sight of the Konoha shinobi that she rescued Zabuza from a couple of days' age. So the Konoha shinobi are here. So does this mean that the boy and the woman are their allies? If so, then we could be in serious trouble. Haku decided the best way to find out was to continue her observations. As the spar continued, Kakashi felt he had recovered enough to see if Naruto was using any chakra in his attacks. So he lifted up his headband to reveal his Sharingan and focused on Naruto. As Naruto jumped back to evade one of Shizen's kicks, he suddenly had a feeling of dread, as flashes of the beating he got years ago passed in front of his eyes. His eyes widened and started to look around for the source. Shizen took advantage of Naruto's distraction and landed a blow to his face, sending him crashing into a tree. When Tsunade saw Naruto's eyes start looking around, she got a little worried. He never let himself get distracted like this when in a spar. So she scanned the area herself. She froze when she laid eyes on Kakashi with his Sharingan active, looking at Naruto. Tsunade looked back to where Naruto hit the tree, only to see him standing on a branch looking around frantically. Her eyes widened in realization. OHSHIT. He's able to sense the chakra being used in the Sharingan. Tsunade immediately rushed over to Kakashi and yanked his headband down, covering his eye. Giving Kakashi a hard glare, her focus went back to Naruto. Seeing that he had a very confused look on his face, decided to call it a day. "Alright. That's enough for now," yelled Tsunade. As Naruto landed on the ground next to the tree, Sasuke came up to him, grabbed Naruto by the coat, and said, "I demand that you tell where you got that power from." Looking at Sasuke like he was nuts, Naruto just said, "Through training?" This really infuriated Sasuke. His grip tightened as he said, "Don't toy with me, you loser. There's no way a person like you could become that skilled with just through regular training. Now tell me where you got it." Naruto narrowed his eyes. "What an asshole. Sasuke team, I'll give you just 5 seconds to let go of me, or I'm going to take this as an assault on my person, and break your arm in response." Before anything could happen, Kakashi separated the two and lead his team off to finish their training. After they left, Naruto continues to stare in the direction that Team 7 headed. Shaking his head and letting out, Naruto said, "You know, Kazan, I'm starting to wonder if your bad luck is rubbing off on me." A little irritated by this comment, Tsunade remains calm and asks, "What do you mean by that, Naruto-chan?" "Well, it was my choice to visit Wave in the first place, and it's done nothing but bring trouble and bad memories." Tsunade and Shizen looked at Naruto with a sad face. That's when Tsunade decided to ask Naruto-chan, "What happened in the spar earlier? Why did you get distracted at the end?" Naruto thought about it for a second before responding with, "I don't really know. I was just overcome with a feeling of dread. It was like someone was watching me. The only time I felt like that Was just before you found me, cousin. That's what I thought. Tsunade put a smile on her face and said, well, let's worry about it later, okay? Let's just head back and get me some sake. Naruto just laughed at his cousin's attempt to change the subject. He just looked up at the sky, and let out another sigh before saying, I think I'll just go for a walk. I just need to be alone for a little while. Nodding, Tsunade said, alright, just don't stay out too late. Okay, Naruto-chan. Thanks, cousin, said Naruto as he started to head off into the woods. During this time Haku watched the exchange between Naruto and Sasuke. She was a little relieved to see that the Konoha shinobi and this other group weren't allies. Haku decided that she wanted to know more about the blonde-haired boy and his relationship with that dark-haired boy. Bringing her focus back on the group, Haku sees Naruto walk off into the woods while the other to head back to town. Since she can't learn anything more here, Haku decides to head back to the clearing and continue to gather the herbs for Zabuza, and disappears in a whirl of leaves. When the wooded area is deserted of all its occupants, Shadow came out of the shadows. Shadow had observed Naruto's spar and was impressed with his taijutsu skills, but the name Naruto bothered him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had heard that name somewhere before. After looking the battlefield, Shadow thought, I'm going to have to report this to my partners. Maybe they know where I heard the name Naruto before. I'll also have to tell them that it looks like Tsunade-sama is here with him. Shadow then returns to the shadows. As Naruto walked through the woods, he stumbles into a clearing. As he looked around, he spotted a girl wearing a pink kimono gathering herbs. Seeing that she was by herself, Naruto headed over to see if she needed any help. Haku was surprised when she sensed Naruto come into the clearing. She couldn't believe that she ran into Naruto so soon, and when he started to head towards her, she decided not to let this opportunity pass by. With her back to Naruto, Haku lifted her head and said, it's not very polite to sneak up on people like that. I am sorry, I was just wandering around, and I ended up here. I didn't mean to sneak up on anyone. What the hell? Since when do I stutter? For that matter, how was she able to tell I was even walking up to her? Could she be a shinobi? When Haku turned around, she couldn't help but laugh at Naruto's confused expression. If you didn't mean to, then I guess it's alright. By the way, my name's Haku, may I ask yours? Naruto just rubbed the back of his head as he tried to figure out Haku. Shrugging his shoulders, he answered, mine's Naruto. It's nice to meet you. As they shake hands, Naruto notices the herbs in Haku's basket, and asks, I see you're collecting some medical herbs. Would you like some help? You know about medical herbs? Said a shocked Haku. Yeah, my cousin and Nechan are medical specialists, and have been training me so I can follow in their footsteps. Said a smiling Naruto. Over the next few hours, Naruto got to know Haku while he helped her gather medical herbs. When they had finished, he looked over at her, and noticed the look in her eyes. This caused him to ask, can I ask you a question? When Haku nods, Naruto continues, have you ever experienced a painful and lonely moment in your life? Haku's eyes widened. How was all that escaped her lips? Naruto just gave Haku a slight smile and said, it's your eyes. I see that same look every time I look into a mirror. Haku sat there in shock. Naruto just closed his eyes and lets out a sigh. He then lifts his head skyward, and opening his eyes, he says, it's the look of a person who survived a traumatic encounter and knows what true pain and suffering is. Haku just looks at Naruto for a second and then asks, how would you know about that? You don't look like you've had to deal with any kind of suffering before. Naruto's head lowered so that his hair covered his eyes. My life wasn't always like this. Before I met my cousin, I lived in a village that hated me. One night about 9 years ago, that hatred boiled over, and they tried to kill me. Nearly succeeded to. They left me for dead somewhere along a roadside. That's where Cousin and Shizunichan found me. After they healed me, they took me in and raised me. Just when I was about ready to give up to, they gave me what I needed most, a family, and a place where I belonged, and I've never been happier. Haku just stared at him in disbelief. She couldn't believe that the boy was just like her. But unlike her, he never lost his purpose for living, for he never had one until he met his cousin. Haku had a far-off look and said, a place to belong. I once had a place like that. I belonged to my parents. Haku then focused on Naruto and continued, they were both kind and caring, and for a time, I was happy, but then something happened. Naruto knew what she would say next, so he said, you don't have to continue. I don't want you to bring up painful memories. Haku gave him a small smile. I'm alright, I don't know why, but it just feels right telling you this. Maybe it's because we share similar pasts. Anyway, my happiness came to a sudden stop. When my father found out that my mother had a Kekkei Genkai, he went into a rage, and killed my mother, then he tried to kill me. Before I even realized what was happening, my Kekkei Genkai awakened, and I ended up killing my own father. Naruto watched as Haku just stared at her hands after she said that. Trying to cheer her up, Naruto says, just remember, that's in the past, and from the look of this basket, you were able to find someone that cares about you. Haku just looked over at Naruto, and smiled. Thank you, Naruto-kun. You're welcome, Haku-chan, said Naruto. Looking up at the sky, Naruto realized that he needed to head back before his cousin started to worry. Saying their goodbyes, Naruto and Haku parted ways, but not before agreeing to get together later. Unknown location deep in the woods. As Shadow walked into the agreed upon meeting location, he spotted two figures waiting for him. One was a female, in her mid-20s, with emerald green eyes and silver hair in a low ponytail, with long bangs coming down on either side of face. She was wearing a white sleeveless robe, with a red vest over top, black ANBU-style pants with silver shin guards, and standard shinobi shoes. The other one was a man, in his late 20s with brown wild hair, a dark blue bandana. There was a scar across his right eye, with a dark face mask. The rest of his clothing was standard shinobi equipment. Yo! Akira! Bayu! You're here early, said Shadow in a friendly manner. Bayu just looked up and said, keep it down, Shadow, we don't know if anyone could be listening. Now give us a mission report. Well, Bayu, it's proceeding slowly. I've been unable to talk to Zabuza about joining our village, and Gato's been keeping a close eye on him since his lose to Kakashi. Bayu got a serious look on his face and said, so, Konoha sent Sharingan Kakashi to protect the bridge builder. What about the rest of the mission? Well, I've been able to get close to Gato and I'm about ready to take him out, but a little complication has appeared, said Shadow. Raising an eyebrow at this, Bayu says, a little complication? Yesterday, Gato had me track down a boy who saved the bridge builder's daughter. When I finally found him, he was with two others. One looked a lot like Tsunade-sama. I didn't recognize the other one, but she called the boy Naruto. Shadow looks over at Bayu and said, I know, I've heard that name somewhere before, but I can't place it. Akira stiffened when she heard the name and asked Shadow, what does this boy look like? Well, he has blonde spiky hair, deep blue eyes, and he had these odd whisker-like birthmarks on his cheeks. Akira's eyes widen when she hears this. It can't be, that sounds like Naruto Uzumaki. That's impossible. He died over 9 years ago, yelled Shadow. That's true, but remember, this information came from Konoha, so we might have been lied to, said Bayu. If that's true, then what are we going to do about it? Said Akira as she nods her head in agreement. Bayu comes to a decision. Shadow, you will continue with the mission, however, I want you to find out if he really is Naruto Uzumaki. Yes, sir, said Shadow as he fades into the shadows. Akira, we may have to run interference. If what Shadow said is true, then Tsunade-sama has to be close to the boy, and I don't think she'll want anyone to find out the truth about him. Akira nods her head and heads off toward town. Bayu just stood there for a moment before he followed after Akira. His only thought was, if he really is Naruto Uzumaki, then Sensei is going to be really pissed that we were lied to. Living room of the Tazuna house. As Naruto walked into the living room, he saw Tsunade sitting on the couch waiting for him. You've been gone a long time. I was starting to get worried, said Tsunade. Naruto just sighed. He hated to upset his cousin like this. I'm sorry, cousin. I was helping a friend gather some herbs, and I just lost track of the time. Tsunade perked up after hearing this. So, my little Naruto was able to make a friend here, huh? What's their name? What kind of person are they? Naruto just shook his head at all the questions. Well, to start, her name is Haku, and she's just like me. We both know what it's like to be truly alone. She does seem to be a very kind person, and her knowledge of medicine rivals my own. Tsunade just smiled at Naruto. She was happy that he was finally able to make a friend. She was a little worried that after his experiences in Konoha, he would try to distance himself from people his own age, so he wouldn't get hurt again. Tsunade put her arm around Naruto and said, I'm happy that you were able to make a friend, Naruto. It's starting to look like it was a good idea to come to Wave after all. Now come on, it's late. Let's turn in for the night. Over the next few days, Naruto spent his time training with his family, avoiding Sasuke and spending some time with Haku. Naruto even found out that, as he suspected, Haku has had some shinobi training. They even taught each other some ninjutsu. Haku taught Naruto Suiton, Suryudan no Jutsu, and Suiton, Daibakufu no Jutsu, while Naruto taught Haku Katan, Gokaku no Jutsu, and some healing techniques since she had some medical training. Naruto's time in Wave seemed to be going better, that is until one evening when everyone was together for dinner. As the meal progresses, Inari, who had been watching Naruto for the past couple of days, finally broke down and yelled, why do you train so hard? And no matter how hard you train, there will always be someone who is stronger than you. Naruto just looked over at Inari and said, shut up, I'm not like you. I'll never just give up and become a baby like you. Inari just shouted back, you don't know a thing about me. You're always spending time with your family, or that friend of yours. You have no idea what suffering and loneliness is really like, or what my life is like. The room got deathly quiet as Tsunade and Shizen glared at Inari. Finally the silence was broken by Naruto. Naruto had his head lowered with his hair covering his eyes as he said in a harsh tone, you say you've suffered, kid. You don't know the meaning of the word. The tone in Naruto's voice caused a visible flinch from Tsunade and Shizen. This didn't go unnoticed by the Konoha shinobi. But before anyone could say anything, Naruto continued. You don't know how lucky you had it. You've always had your mother and grandfather, who love you, and will always be there for you. I didn't even know what love was, until I was 4, or what it felt like to belong to a family until I was 5. This shocked everyone in the room except for Tsunade, Shizen, and Kakashi. Since the room was silent, Naruto continued, you want to know the funny thing is, if it wasn't for the hatred of Konoha, then I probably wouldn't have met my family. This statement caused Kakashi to lower his head, and Hinata had tears in her eyes. Sasuke just sat there looking completely uninterested. As for Sakura, she didn't believe what Naruto just said, yells back, you're lying. Konoha isn't like that. We treat everyone like family. Naruto just scoffed at Sakura's words and says, depends when you were born. Naruto then looks over at Tsunade and says, sorry cousin, but I've lost my appetite, so I'm going for a walk. Tsunade nods her head, and Naruto walks out the door. After Naruto leaves, everyone recovers from their shock and then Inari runs out of the room crying. Shizen looked over at Tsunade, who gives her a slight nod. Understanding the meaning, Shizen gets up and follows Inari. When Sakura reiterates her last statement about Konoha treating everyone like family, a low chuckle could be heard from Tsunade. Shaking her head, Tsunade says family, Konoha was like that once, but that was a long time ago. As Tsunade got up and headed for the door, Sakura came out of her shock and says, how can you say that, Tsunade-sama? You should know firsthand how Konoha treats everyone. Tsunade stops dead in her tracks, and looks back at Sakura before saying, you're right, I have seen firsthand the results of what the people of Konoha are capable of. Tsunade then proceeds out the door. When Shizen found Inari, he was sitting on a dock crying over the harsh treatment he received from Naruto. As Shizen sat down next to Inari, she says, you know, Naruto-kun really didn't mean to blow up at you like that. Inari looked up at Shizen with tear-covered eyes, while Shizen just let out a sigh, but I think he's been holding that inside himself for so long that your words just set him off. You see, for the first part of his life, Naruto-kun was all alone, he didn't even have a mother or a father. Inari stops crying and goes wide-eyed as Shizen continues. In fact, what he said was true. When he was 5, some shinobi tried to kill him. If it wasn't for Tsunade-sama and myself, he probably would have died. Inari remained silent after hearing that about Naruto. Seeing this, Shizen just smiled and added, so don't let it get to you, Naruto-kun can't stand to see people suffer, so in his own way, he was trying to help you. So, let's head back inside, shall we? Inari looked up at Shizen and tried to smile before they headed back inside. We find Naruto walking through woods mentally berating himself for yelling at Inari like that. Smooth Naruto, real smooth, you probably scarred the poor kid for life. Naruto then punches a nearby tree to vent some frustration, leaving a huge indentation in the tree. Will you keep it down, kid? Some of us are trying to sleep here. Yawned Kyubi. Not now, Bachan, I'm pissed off enough as it is. What's got you so mad, Naruto-kun? Said a voice from behind him. Turning around, Naruto looked up into the tree only to find Haku looking down at him. Kyubi looked at this new girl and inwardly smirked. Not bad, kid, she'll make a fine mate someday. This caused Naruto to nearly choke Bachan. It's not like that, we're just friends. Seeing Naruto get a far-off look on his face, Haku started to get worried. Jumping down to the ground, she asked, are you okay, Naruto-kun? Shaking his head and ignoring Kyubi's laughter, he looked at Haku and sighed, not really, I kind of blow my top at a little kid. When he said I didn't know what suffering was like. Before Haku could say anything, Sasuke came out of the woods and walked up to them with a scowl on his face. I knew this was a waste of time. I can't believe that I followed a loser like you out here, thinking that I could see what kind of training you do, and here I find you meeting some worthless little girl, pathetic. And then he just grunted and walked away. Sasuke received glares to the back of his head, from both Nataro and Haku. Both of them had the exact same thought, man, he's a real asshole. After Sasuke was out of sight, Naruto looked over at Haku and said, sorry about that, Haku-chan, he can be a real asshole sometimes. It wasn't your fault, Naruto-kun, so stop blaming yourself. Said Haku. Thanks, Haku-chan, but what are you doing out here at this time of night? I was just about to meet up with someone, when I heard a loud noise and I thought I would investigate. Naruto got a thoughtful look on his face before saying, well then, I wouldn't want you to get in any kind of trouble for being late. So I'll just be on my way. As Haku watched Naruto walk off, she said, Naruto-kun, do you think we could meet up tomorrow night, just so you can talk to someone about what happened with that kid you yelled at? Naruto just smiled at Haku and said, sure thing, I'll meet you here around this time tomorrow, okay? Haku just nodded and headed off to meet Zabuza at their hideout. When she got back to the hideout, Haku ran into Zabuza right inside the door. Haku, where did you run off to? Haku just bowed and said, sorry Zabuza-sama, I ran into my new friend and got delayed. Zabuza just looked at Haku for a second before saying, never forget how you are, Haku, now go get ready, we'll attack the old man tomorrow. Hi Zabuza-sama, said Haku as she went to get ready for tomorrow's mission. Chapter 7, Battle on the Bridge. When the following morning came, Tsunade decided that because of what happened last night, Naruto deserved to sleep in today, so she headed out to see if she could find a place to think about how to tell Naruto about the people who assaulted him, as well as sell her some sake. As she was about to leave, Shizen decided to come along with her, so they told Tsunami to let Naruto know where they were headed and left the house. Team 7 had just escorted Tazuna to the bridge when a thick mist started to roll in. Before any of them realized that they were surrounded by Mizu bunchins of Zabuza. I see you've still got those brats with you, Kakashi. It seems the boy is still trembling from our last encounter, said all of the Zabuzas. Sasuke just gets smirk on his and says, I'm trembling with excitement. Sasuke just blurred out for a few seconds, and then all of the Zabuzas burst into water, for I've been waiting for a rematch. Well, it looks like this brat has turned into rival Haku? Says Zabuza. Knowing that this would piss off Sasuke, Haku says, not really, no, if it were Naruto-kun, then I would have to agree with you. Everyone was caught off guard with this comment. Kakashi just looks over at the two they know about Naruto. Recovering from his shock, Sasuke starts to see red and charges Haku. Sasuke throws a series of punches and kicks aimed at Haku's head, chest, and kidneys. After Haku blocks all these blows, she goes for a sweep to the legs. As Sasuke starts to fall, Haku comes around with a kick to the chest, sending Sasuke flying backwards. Sasuke comes skidding to a halt in front of Kakashi. His smirk never left his face even as he got back to his feet. Wiping some dirt from his chin, Sasuke says, "I'm glad to see that you have some skill. I was afraid that this was going to be boring." Haku just shakes her head in disbelief. Can he really be that arrogant? He couldn't even touch me with his attack, and I kicked him halfway across this bridge, and he thinks I have some skill. Haku lowers her head and says, "I'm going to enjoy taking you down a peg or two." To Tsunade's house. After Naruto received Tsunade's message from Tsunami, he decided to take a bath and get ready for when she came back. Just as he finished getting ready, he heard screaming coming from downstairs. By the time he got downstairs, he hears Tsunami say, "If you kill Inari, I'll bit off my tongue and bleed to death. Then you won't have any hostages." Naruto snuck up to the doorframe and took a peek inside. What he saw surprised him. It was the two men that threatened Tsunami over a week ago. One of them was dragging Tsunami away while the other one was putting a sword to Inari's neck. After assessing the situation, Naruto did some hand seals and vanished into thin air. As the two men continued to threaten Inari, they never noticed the Genijutsu Naruto put them under. Both men's eyes widened as they dropped whatever was in their hands, and grabbed their heads and dropped to their knees screaming, before falling unconscious. Inari just looked at the two men and then at Naruto, who just appeared out of nowhere, before asking what just happened. Naruto rubs the back of his head and gets a smile on his face as he replies, "Well, Inari, I used the Genijutsu on them, that I developed myself. Before you asked, this Genijutsu dives into your mind, and finds the most brutal act that you have committed in the last year. It then has you live through that even, but you're the victim, so you experience all the pain that you inflicted on them." Seeing the confused look on Inari's face, Naruto decided to try another approach. "Basically, what I said was that I make them relive one of their acts of brutality as the victim. They see themselves hurting themselves." Naruto kneeled down to face Inari. He got a sad look on his face and says, "Inari, I saw what they did to your father, and I promise you this. I won't let Gato or his men kill your grandfather." After seeing a smile appear on Inari's face, Naruto tied up the two men and headed off toward the bridge. At a pub somewhere in town, Tsunade took another swig of her sake, then looked over at Shizen and says, "Shizen, I think it's time we talked to Naruchan about the clan that assaulted him. With the only two Sharingan wielders from Konoha here, he's bound to find out about the Uchiha clan's involvement, and I want to make sure that the Uchiha brat doesn't push Naruchan over the edge." But Tsunade-sama Shizen never got to finish her sentence as both of them felt Naruto's chakra spike. Tsunade's head snapped, and looked over at Shizen. "Something's wrong, we need to head back to the house, now." Shizen just nods her head and both of them head out the door. Just as they exit the pub, a strange man lands in front of them. As Bayu looks over at the two, he simply says, "I'm sorry Tsunade-sama, but I can't let you interfere." Tsunade was a bit surprised that this man knew who she was, let alone the fact that he was able to sneak up on them like this. Means he has some skill. Tsunade looks over at Shizen. Making eye contact, she gives Shizen a nod. Understanding what Tsunade was implying, Shizen returns the nod, and then dashes off towards Tsunade's house. Bayu moves to intercept Shizen, when Tsunade suddenly appears in front of him to block his path. Narrowing her eyes at him, she asks, "What exactly are we interfering with?" Bayu just stares back at her and says, "Tell me, that boy who accompanies you, is his full name Naruto Uzumaki?" Back at the bridge, Sasuke was just barely able to dodge Haku's Sensatsu Sway Show. When he looked back toward Haku, he was starting to get really pissed off at the face that this shinobi was playing with him. "Damn it, this Haku is just toying with me. If I just had my Sharingan, this would be child's play." Haku just smiled behind her mask at the amount of trouble Sasuke was having just trying to keep up with her. Ever since her encounter with him the night before, Haku has developed a strong dislike for the Uchiha. Kakashi was starting to get a little worried. Sasuke wasn't faring too well against this Haku person, but if he were to go help, then Zabuza would move in to kill Tazuna, along with his other two students Sakura and Hinata. He just narrowed his eyes at Zabuza and continued to wait for his moment to strike. He just hoped it would happen before anything bad happened to Sasuke. Sasuke throws some kunai and shuriken at Haku. While she moved to dodge, he charged in. Just as Haku dodged the projectile weapons, Sasuke managed to kick her in the face to send her flying back. Haku does a flip in midair and lands on her feet. Haku looks up only to see Sasuke charging at her again, so she decided that playtime was over, and starts doing hand seals and then says, "Demonic ice mirrors. And, I could not find the Japanese name for this jutsu. I would appreciate any help in finding a site that has the jutsu's names. Thanks in advance." Sasuke comes skidding to a halt, as he sees a large ice mirror form in front of him. Taking a quick glance around him, he sees that he is completely surrounded by these mirrors. Turning back around to face Haku, Sasuke is surprised to see Haku walk into one of the ice mirrors, and after her image appears on all of them, Sasuke couldn't help but think, how could I let this happen? I'm an Uchiha, one of the elite clans of Konoha. I shouldn't be having this much trouble. Sasuke's thoughts were cut short as Saban needles came flying towards him. Kakashi watched on in horror as the Senbons headed towards Sasuke at alarming speed. This is bad. Without Sharingan, Sasuke's no match for this shinobi. I've got to do something. Just as he finished this line of thoughts, Zabuza appears in front of Kakashi. Don't forget that I'm your opponent, says Zabuza as he swings his sword in a downward slash. Somewhere in town, Shizen was about halfway to Tazuna's house when a hail of kunai came flying at her. Distracted by her concern for what was happening to Naruto, she barely manages to dodge the attack. Landing on a nearby rooftop, Shizen scans the area, looking for her attacker. When she suddenly hears the sound of clapping coming from behind her, turning around she sees a woman standing on the adjacent roof. Akira is still applauding Shizen's skills. When she says that was quite impressive, I didn't think you could dodge that attack, being as distracted as you were, Shizen-san. Shizen gets into a defensive stance and asks, who are you? Akira just shook her head and takes a bow. Where are my manners? My name is Akira. It's nice to finally meet you, Shizen-san. Now if you would be so kind as to stay right here until all of this is over, that way I won't have to fight you. Shizen was really confused now. She didn't understand why this woman was trying to stop her from reaching her Ototo. What do you want with Naruto-chan? Looking into Shizen's eyes, Akira says, we want to know if the Naruto that is with you is the same Naruto Uzumaki that is from Konoha, who was supposedly killed nearly 10 years ago, are in fact one and the same. Shizen's eyes widen slightly at hearing this. She starts to get a little worried, and responses with I doubt they are. But why would it matter anyway? What's so special about him? He would have been a small child back then. Lowering her head so that her bands cover her eyes, Akira says, a long time ago, the Konoha Council not only lied to our sensei about him, but they also throw her out of the village. Why they did that, I don't know, but 10 years ago, she found out that he was still alive. She wanted to go herself, but my team managed to talk her out of it. Akira tilted her head back to look at the sky, then she continues her story. So, my team went in her place. By the time we reached Konoha, it was already too late. A tear trickled down her cheek. Can you believe it? He was just a child, and they really tried to kill him. Well, after we finished our investigation, we reported back to our sensei. Needless to say, she wasn't too happy. I swear, if we would have had the strength back then, we probably would have declared war on Konoha. Now Shizen was in a state of shock after hearing all this. But she couldn't help but wonder if what she says is true. Then why are they attacking us? If you're telling me the truth, then answer this. Why did you attack us? Why not just come to us and talk in a civilized manner? Letting out a sigh, Akira answers that was the team leader's choice. He said you wouldn't give us a straight answer. So I ask again, please just stay here, and wait until this is over. I can't do that. Naruto-kun might be in danger, and I won't let him face it alone. Shizen says as she gets ready to attack. Akira just looks at Shizen and says, you really care about him, don't you? Giving a slight smile, Shizen says, I do. He's like a brother to me, so I won't let you harm him. Closing her eyes, Akira stands there in silent contemplation. When she opens them again, she looks directly at Shizen and says, then, I guess we have no choice. I can't let you interfere until we learn the truth. I'm really sorry about this. As the two face off against each other, Shizen lifts up her right sleeve to reveal her Sanban launcher. Pulling back the strings, she launches them at Akira, who quickly dodges them and comes in with a series of punches and kicks that Shizen blocks and counters by throwing a roundhouse kick to Akira's head. Akira catches the kick and throws Shizen into a wall. Akira then comes in to deliver a punch to the Shizen's face, when Shizen manages to duck and roll out of the way. When she looks back, Shizen sees Akira's fist make contact with the wall, which quickly turns to rubble. Narrowing her eyes at Akira, Shizen thinks this is bad. She's just as strong as Tsunade-sama. I'll have to be careful. One wrong move, and it's all over. Just outside the pub, Bayu was still waiting for an answer. Well, Tsunade-sama, are you going to answer the question or not? Tsunade just shrugs her shoulders and says, I don't know what you're talking about. From what I've heard, this Uzumaki person died quite some time ago. Shaking his head, Bayu just says, first, the council lies to us, then, all of Konoha, and now, I've got a feeling, you're lying to us too. As much as I don't want to do this, it looks like I'll have to beat the truth out of you. Getting a smirk on her face, Tsunade says, if you want, you can try, but I've got a feeling that you'll regret it. Suppressing a chuckle, Bayu comments with, well then, I guess after this is over, I'll be paying Naruto-kun a visit. I'm sure he'll be more than willing to talk. Tsunade clenches her fist as her killing intent goes through the roof. Glaring at Bayu, Tsunade says, I swear, if you hurt Naruto in any way. Before Bayu could even blink, Tsunade appeared right in front of him, landing a chakra-enforced punch to his jaw, which sent him flying back and smashing into the building that was behind him. Tsunade just glared at the hole she sent him through and finishes her sentence, I will kill you. In the forest close to the bridge, Naruto was running through the forest when he felt a massive amount of killing intent coming from the town. Remembering his training from Kyuubi, Naruto starts to focus his senses to see if he can tell who it's coming from. When he is finally able to tell who it was coming from, he came skidding to a halt. Looking in the direction of the killing intent, he couldn't help but think, Kazan. What the hell is going on? Why does it feel like Kazan is in fight? Focusing his senses further, he feels a sudden spike of chakra coming from Shizen. Looking in that direction, Naruto's eyes widen in shock. Shizen Nichin too. I need to find out what's going on, but how? I could use Kagebushins, but if it is a fight, one good hit and they'd be gone. What do I do? After hearing Naruto's mental rant, Kyuubi decided to help him out. Looks like you could use So Help Kit. Kyuubi Bacon? You know a way I can create a bushin that lasts for more than one hit? Kyuubi just smiles and says it's just a theory, but if you use my chakra, with your Kage Bushins they should be able to put up quite a fight before dispersing. If this works like you say, then I think I'll call it Kyuubi Kage Bushin no Justu. Naruto forms a cross-shaped seal and creates 2 of his new clones. Their appearance is almost identical to Naruto himself except for the face. Their whiskers-shaped birthmarks were darker and more pronounced, and the eyes were still blue with pupils changing into slits. Looking at his 2 clones, Naruto gave them some mental commands to find Tsunade and Shizen. Both clones nodded and headed out to complete their tasks, and Naruto took off toward the bridge. Back at the bridge, Kakashi was surrounded by mist as he mental berates himself for his situation. Damn it, this mist is too thick for me to see anything with my Sharingan. I spent all my time focusing on getting my team ready, that I forgot to train myself. It's been too long since I had a fight like this. What's the matter? Kakashi can't see. Too bad you weren't trained in silent killing yet? Says Zabuza. Closing his eyes, Kakashi tries to focus on Zabuza's next move. Got to calm down, focus my senses, and locate his next target. Kakashi then opened his eyes in realization. Shit. He's going after Tazuna. Kakashi was just barely able to get there in time to block Zabuza's attack. As Zabuza put more pressure on his sword, he says, "Not bad, Kakashi. You barely managed to block that attack. Let's see how you do when I increase the mist." As the mist increased, Zabuza seemed to just disappear into the mist. Kakashi gets into a defensive stance and starts to look around. Well, it looks like this fight just went to the next level. Inside the ice dome, Sasuke wasn't faring so well. His body was covered in scraps and scratches, as he was just able to dodge the next barrage of sendens that came his way. Damn, I'm not getting anywhere. If I could just follow her movements, then she would be no match for me, thinks Sasuke as he subconsciously starts to gather chakra to his eyes. When Haku launches her next attack, Sasuke starts to see Haku's movements, and is able to dodge this barrage of sendan. After Haku finished her attack, she looked over at Sasuke to see what his condition was. Her eyes widened when she sees Sasuke still standing with his Sharingan blazing, 1 comma in his left eye and 2 commas in his right. So, he's finally awakened it. Well, it looks like it's time to end this. Haku launches another barrage at Sasuke. While Sasuke starts to dodge, Haku was able to use this distraction to use her chakra for a quick burst of speed. Appearing behind Sasuke, Haku uses 2 of her senbons to strike the pressure points in his neck to send him into a death-like state. As Sasuke starts to lose consciousness, he hears Haku say, "You're not going to die. That's too good for you. Instead, I want you to live with shame of being beaten by a loser," and then the darkness claimed him. After Sasuke falls limply to the ground, Haku cancels her jutsu and heads toward Tazuna, Sakura, and Hinata. As Sakura sees Haku walk out of the mist, she takes a step back, out of fear. If this person managed to defeat Sasuke-kun, then I don't stand a chance against them. Hinata's already shaky confidence completely disappeared when she sees Sakura start to back away, but before she could even react, a strange wind started to blow. As the wind started to clear the mist from the bridge, it revealed Kakashi using a kunai to block Zabuza's sword. Both of them looked around at the clearing mist in wonder. What the hell? Is Kakashi doing this? Zabuza thinks as he jumps away from Kakashi. When Kakashi felt the wind, he couldn't help but wonder who's behind this wind. They were able to dispel the mist with such ease, while everyone was wondering the same thing about the wind. But for Hinata, however, this wind had strange warmth to it, almost as if it was telling her that everything was going to be alright. Haku was also having a similar feeling, when a voice came out of nowhere saying Suetun, Suryodin no Jutsu. As the giant dragon made of water came crashing its way towards Haku, she just raised her hand and started to channel her chakra. Just as the dragon was about to make contact, it suddenly split in 2 and went over the both sides of the bridge and back into the water below. Landing in front of Sakura and Hinata, Naruto looked on in disbelief at what the masked shinobi was able to do, for he knew only one person who could do that. It can't be. Flashback 2 days ago, Haku just smiled at Naruto and said, "Ready, Naruto-kun." "I'm ready, but won't you get hurt if this makes a direct hit?" says a concerned Naruto. Shaking her head, Haku says, "You're forgetting about my Kekkai Genkai. Remember, I told you that I can control any form of water." Naruto reluctantly agrees and launches a water dragon, and watches as Haku raises her hand and splits it in 2, completely missing her. Looking back over at Naruto, Haku just smiles and says, "You see, I told you I'd be fine." And flashback. "Haku-chan?" was the only word that escaped his lips. Haku takes off her mask, a sad expression clearly on her face, as she says, "Naruto-kun." Naruto lowered his head while saying, "So, you were the ones Gato hired to take out the old man." Haku's only response was to nod. Lifting his head, you could see the feeling of betrayal in his eyes as his pain-filled voice says, "Just tell me one thing, was our friendship a farce? Did you just use me so you could get information on the Konoha shinobi?" Inside her cage, Kyuubi couldn't help but get a sad look on her face from what Naruto just said. She couldn't help but feel that she was the one responsible for Naruto's lack of trust. "I hope you just wait to see what her answer is. Before you do anything, you're going to regret later, kid." Out in the real world, Haku visibly flinched at what Naruto said. It pained her to see the look of betrayal in his eyes and the sound of his pain-filled voice. The last thing she ever wanted to do was to be the cause of even more pain and suffering for Naruto. Looking directly into Naruto's eyes, she says, "I won't lie to you, Naruto-kun. Before we met, that was one of my intentions, as well as to try and get you and your family as our allies, but after we met, everything changed." Haku lowered her head and continued, "After that day in the woods, I didn't care about getting information on them," points to Kakashi and the rest of Team 7. "I just wanted to get to know you better, so please believe me when I tell you, our friendship wasn't a farce. Please, I don't want to lose my only friend because of this." When Haku raises her head, Naruto searches her eyes for any sign that she's lying. Just as Naruto was about to make his decision, Kyubi makes her opinion known. "I think you should trust her, Kit. I don't sense any deception coming from her. Besides, it looks like she really cares about you." "You're right, Bachan, I was getting the same feeling from her." Naruto started to smile, but then a sad realization set in. Looking over at Haku, he says, "I believe you, Haku-chan, you didn't use me, but I can't let you kill the old man, because I promised Inari I'd protect his grandpa." Haku's sad expression returned as she looked over at Naruto and says, "And I can't go against Zabuza-sama, so I guess this means we're enemies now." As Naruto lowers his head, he says, "I guess so." He then lifts his head and smiles, "But you know what, I'll always consider you my best friend, Haku-chan." Haku returns the smile while saying, "Likewise, Naruto-kun, I too will always consider you my best friend." As both Naruto and Haku get into their fighting stances, Naruto couldn't help but think of all the fun he's had since he met Haku. Looking over at Haku, Naruto makes a silent promise. "I swear to you, Haku-chan, we're both going to make it through this alive." That's a promise. What if Naruto is forced to return to Konoha by Kushina? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.